We've also been asked by a TV station in Alpena for them to be able to record this. Our meeting. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do that.
I don't think you can get two recordings taking place at the same time unless they're
No.
capturing it themselves.
Right, right. It says, yeah, I'm supposed to allow him, but I don't know how to do that. So I'll just have to get it from us tomorrow. I can email it to him. I got enough to do right now. Sorry.
Right.
So again, not trying to, Ken, I don't know how to do that. So I got enough going on with the 55 participants now and we're recording. So we'll get that to you. If you give me your email address, I can email it to you on WeTransfer. So it's gonna be the same thing, but okay. All right, so that being said, let's call this regular board meeting to order on May 10th at 7:06 with a pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me.
I just want to change the screen. All right. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Present.
Ms. McGuire,
Here.
Mr. Spencer,
I'm here.
Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Sutton here, Mr. Westerbarth,
Present.
Ms. Richards,
Here. Okay, we now have agenda additions. I know there was one from last week that we talked about. Mitch?
Yes, that was the. Sorry, I've got.
The zoning compensation, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yep.
Okay. And where did we want to put that under?
It was under other.
Oh, we
number
actually already,
10.
I'm sorry, it's on there. It's on other under. I missed it. We did put it on. So it's number 10. So it's already on there. And then I know Jamie, you had one.
Yep. I would
public
like
comment?
to, with our board protocol that was adopted in November 20, under section 8.12 order of business, it states that the township board by adoption of this manual establishes the general order of the meetings. And in that order, there's a first public comment and a second public comment. And I would like to add the first public comment period back to our agenda. Because it looks like we are going to be doing virtual meetings for a while. So I think it's only fair to the public to be able to comment on any item that's on the agenda. But it is that only, they only get to comment on that.
Right, it's for agenda items only. I think similar to what the planning commission does.
Correct.
Bill?
I'd like to add to that because about 3 meetings ago, I asked for that to be done and put back in, and I was told, actually I was told no by the supervisor, that we went to, the prior board went to one public comment. And I guess the question is, why all of a sudden are we going to do this or talk about doing this when it got shut down 3 meetings ago? So I'd like an explanation. I'm all for it as long as it stays in every meeting going forward. But I don't understand.
I guess, Steve, I'm sorry, I don't remember shooting it down.
Point of order, and point of order. I want an explanation from the chair on why I brought this up, because I brought it up from a citizen that was quite upset that it was removed. And I got the response, and I don't think I was the only one in the meeting, that no, The answer was no, we're going to stay with one.
I
So just
don't-
making a comment.
I honestly don't remember saying that. I actually asked the question that we used to have 2 public comments. The first one was about items that were on the agenda, and it gave the community time. I was told that the former board removed it because of time constraints. I don't remember telling you, no, it couldn't be put back on. So I guess if somebody else remembers that, then I guess I said it, but I honestly don't remember that, Steve. So, yeah.
I'm not sure what you were told regarding that explanation or how that came about. My understanding is that during COVID, we agreed to have one public comment, I think partly because there was some conversation or something stated in one of the executive orders. I think there was something about that. I don't remember for sure. The other was that it had to do with the difficulty in managing all the different callers at that time, just like what you're doing, Ann.
Yeah, it's
how to
stressful,
actually
I can
do
tell
it.
you that, yep.
How to actually execute on that was
Mhm.
very difficult. And so from
Yep.
my recollection, it was partly that and partly an advice in an executive order. And I don't recall, because I wasn't the supervisor at the time, and I don't recall the comment, but maybe Bill, being one of the past board members, do you remember more about that than I do?
Yeah, it was when we went to the Zoom meetings, it was felt that trying to get the public comment, it's not that we don't want public comments, not by a long shot, but trying to get unmute everybody that's on the meeting, trying to unmute everybody and to get them onto the public comment, and then having to do that twice in one meeting created such a log jam and would create such a long meeting that while we were doing the Zoom meetings, we opted to just go with one public hearing. In the past, the first public hearing,
Public comment.
when we meet in person, people have to submit their name and to the superintendent prior to the meeting. And then they're called upon by the superintendent. Of course, we don't, can't do that during a Zoom meeting. So we opted the prior board to just go with one public comment period for the sake of time constraints, if nothing else.
And twice you used the term public hearing, and what you meant was public comment. Is that correct?
Public comment. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's right.
Thank
Public
you.
comment.
Okay.
Okay. Well, again, I don't remember saying that it can't be on there, Steve, so I'm not sure what you're referencing.
The
I'm not
former
calling you a liar either, so I don't remember saying that, because I actually have wondered the whole time. I think I thought I made a couple comments as to why it wasn't on there, so I don't know.
Did Mr. Palmer and Mr. Cummings, do you remember if you guys voted to change the protocol document to amend it to include any type of verbiage about virtual meetings?
That was before the protocol document was adopted.
Okay.
The old
Yes, that's
board.
correct. Yep.
So yet again, we adopted the protocol document and didn't follow it. Is that that's pretty much where we're at right now?
Yep.
Or rather, it wasn't modified before we adopted it.
Right.
Fair enough.
Because
I think we actually even, again, I'm not saying I have the memory of a steel trap by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that we actually did discuss this a couple times, that it was in the protocol, and that it was just kind of eliminated because of time, time constraints and that whatever. So, I think we did acknowledge that it was in the protocol before, but I could be wrong.
But again, Ann, it's the sequence. We didn't have the protocol manual a year ago. So it wasn't in place, it wasn't enforced, it didn't exist, we never voted on it. It was only voted in the first time in November with our first board meeting with this board after the election. And as I said, I think it's just a matter of it wasn't updated with this particular point before when we ratified it, when we adopted it.
Okay, well, I guess what's the thought of the board in putting it back in or not then?
It's in the packet, or it's in the protocol manual that we adopted. So yes, it needs to be on there on every single meeting from here on, unless we change that.
I agree.
Okay, so that it's under, where's that under then?
Comes after agenda additions.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, a motion to add that.
okay,
I don't think a motion was formally made.
right.
I know it's in the protocol document, but it would probably be proper to have a motion.
Yeah, to reinstate
Right.
to reinstate both.
We need a motion to follow the
don't
document that
think
we
we're
motion
done.
to approve.
I think there's other agenda
That's-
items that we were,
That's gonna be included in additions.
that were being asked to be added. So,
And we don't do them individually?
Okay. Let's see, this evening, maybe. Seems it might be prudent to take them on.
individual basis.
Yes.
So we're
Right.
just going to approve them for addition individually and then discuss and vote where after they're added?
Correct.
Okay.
If that's okay with
And you
everybody.
need to start with the zoning compensation.
It was already actually added. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
It was already in the amended edition
Okay.
agenda, so it didn't need to be added. That was my mistake. So we need to start with the public comment.
I'll make a motion that we follow our protocol and put the first public comment period back in tonight's evening and every meeting after.
I second
Wait.
that. Oh, sorry,
I
Mr.
wish to
Cummings.
I wish to clarify the motion. Every meeting, so are you referring to meetings or work sessions when you say a meeting? What term do you mean there?
Do the work sessions usually have a public comment at the beginning?
Well, if we say every meeting, it needs to be on every single stinking meeting. But if we
Just
do,
that-
if
yeah,
you,
just
if you
asking what
say,
Okay, so I'll
if you
just
say
say board
regular
meeting.
board meetings, then
Okay, so regular, I will change my motion.
what does it say in the protocol document?
It says, what is the agenda?
I don't think it really
Just back to-
specifies.
It speaks to just the regular board meeting, I believe.
Right,
So I will amend my motion to include the regular board meetings to include the first public comment at this regular board meeting and every following regular board meeting.
I still second it.
okay. There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Spencer to add the public comment back to the beginning of the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer, Mr. Palmer,
he's muted. You probably have to unmute him again.
All right. Sorry, I have to find him.
Sorry about that. Yes,
Sorry, Bill.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wushtabarth,
Yes,
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, Steve, I believe you had some items that you wanted to add to the agenda?
replacement of the CDAM Development Fellow. First one.
Okay, and where would you like to put this?
I guess following zoning compensation.
Is everybody aware of what that's about?
No,
So are you just gonna be presenting information then, Steve, or?
do we have any
I'm going to-
information?
I'm going to ask Todd to review the current information that came up after the work session that I was made aware of last Friday. So we can have the discussion then.
but we don't have anything that we got for backup information.
Mr. Mitchell will be able to provide the information, Mr. Dickerson and Mr. Sutton. They've all been involved. So I make a motion to add the replacement of discussion regarding the replacement of the CDAM development fellow.
Is that the only one?
Well, we're going to do them individually, starting
Oh,
with that
well,
one.
I second that, adding that to the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Spencer to add number 11, replacement of CDAM fellow. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes,
Mr.
can you
Wusterbarth?
hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. I feel like for some reason though, he just went away. Steve, are you
Is it my
still on?
internet?
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
All right, sorry, your name kind of went away after you said that, so I didn't know if you accidentally muted, so I just want to make sure because I knew you had another one. Okay, go ahead with the next one.
I'm asking the board's approval for the township attorney to initiate an investigation of workplace harassment within the township. And because it involves township administration and alleged elected officials, I'm asking the township attorney to take care of the investigation and report back to the board. So I make a motion to add that to tonight's agenda.
Support.
Okay, workplace harassment. Motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Cummings. And I'm assuming that would be number 12.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, next one.
I'd like to add asking the board's approval for the township attorney to draft and present a micromanagement policy for the township. That being said, I make that motion.
We have a policy committee and isn't there already micromanagement information in our board protocol?
Not that I saw.
I believe it's on pages. Sorry about that, my adding machine. Pages 31.
You're talking about 7.08 roles and information flow, A, the board roles, and C, the staff roles,
Yeah,
where individual board members may not intervene in staff decision-making, the development of staff recommendations, scheduling of work, and executing department priorities without the prior knowledge and approval of the township board as a whole, and so on and so forth.
yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Okay, well, I don't think that covers what I'm trying to do, so I'm still making the motion to draft a formal micromanagement policy. He can revise and look at the protocol as well.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
Lastly, I'd like to add, we reviewed the social media policy as over the weekend, there's been some violations in my mind in the civility clause, and I'll be glad to discuss that at the appropriate time.
Who's we?
Therefore, my motion.
What's the motion, Mr. Wusterbarth?
A discussion around the social media policy that the township has and a possible violation that was over the weekend in regards to its civility clause.
I'll second that as well.
Okay. There's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer, sorry. To add social media policy breach, I guess you would say, or
Possible.
possible breach. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Worcesterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, does that summarize the agenda additions then?
I have one addition as well.
Okay,
All right. Sorry, trying to get this up here. Sorry, trying to pull my stuff up. I have everything else in here. It was just to recommend hiring a CPA to straighten out the books, balance the funds monthly, move funds monthly, and do assist with timely reporting until I can be trained to actually do it. We've run into some issues with me calling BS&A and making changes in the system that's creating problems. So until then, I just want to make sure the township funds are being adjusted correctly. So I'm asking for that CPA. And that is to be paid from GL 101-299-801-000 professional fees.
Is that your motion, Josh?
Yes, sir.
I'd second that.
and I'm assuming that would be placed under other as well.
Yes, it's 15.
Did you say that includes the bank reconciliations as well?
Yes. Yeah, and that's also to address that issue like we're having with MERS from all those changes as well. That's why I want somebody to get in there and dig through that.
Okay, so there was a motion by, I'm sorry, did you make the motion, Josh?
Yes,
Okay, and it was supported by Mr. Westerbarth, I believe?
yes,
Can I ask a question before we move on?
yes,
Are you suggesting an RFP for this?
yes, sorry, to go out for bid.
Okay.
So you understand that that's kind of a lengthy process.
Yes, I think that
Josh.
we should be able to get that out just within the time coming up and get that done.
Well, I mean, generally speaking, issuing a RFP and getting proposals back is about a 4-week process if you, even if you hurry it. So just saying that those things will be.
I think that's a long time considering what we have going on.
Is there a way to streamline it? I mean, we can kind of push it through a little faster if we so choose as a board, can we not?
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, Jeremy, generally, you know, it takes a little bit to put together unless they've already drafted that I'm not aware of. but if they've already drafted a document that can be used as the RFP, if not, then it usually takes a couple days to do that, send it out, response time, going over proposals. And by the time you get somebody going, I mean, I would say rushing it would be 3 weeks, but I'm just speculating. I just thought I would mention that it's not exactly just usually a quick turnover.
Would the board be open to an RFP with our current auditors reviewing until that RFP comes back?
That wouldn't be,
I'd rather
that
look
wouldn't
at,
really,
look at,
Oh, we talked about that.
So I
I'd
heard
rather
3
use the
people there.
process of, no. I'd rather use the defined process that we have and look at options. But that's a discussion item after this gets added to the agenda.
Okay, so we can go ahead and add it as presented.
I think
Okay.
that the CPA and the auditor must be separate. I don't know if we can,
Yep.
Right, because you can't use them to
Yeah,
audit their
that's
own
why we're
stuff.
trying to.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a discussion, so right now it's just to add.
fair
Okay.
enough.
All right, so roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer,
yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Miss Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, does that summarize the requested agenda additions?
And I want one, I'd like one removal
Okay,
under my report number 3. The OOP erosion project payment request number 1. We found a glitch in the BSNA program, and before I make something like that final, I need to check with them. I found a transfer in one end and not a transfer in another end. So I need to find out which is before we proceed.
okay, so you want to remove that item from the
Yes.
agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to do that, support to do that, or a motion, or you're making the motion? Is there
Well,
support?
I'm
Well, you
requesting
can't.
that you do it.
I'm sorry, you
He
can't
can't
make the
make the
motion.
motion.
I just
I'm
was
requesting that
saying
you
that.
consider it.
So is there a motion to do that?
Mitch, are you saying that's the one that we held up last time, correct?
Yes,
To
but
John Henry?
Ms. I found it, in one spot it says it was transferred, in another spot it says it wasn't transferred. So
The money wasn't transferred?
yeah, it shows, in one spot it says it does, and another spot it says it does not. So I need clarification on that before we do anything. Because that's the bulk of where the payment would come from.
Okay, well, I would assume between you and the clerk, you would be able to figure that out without BSNA.
Well, so far I have not been able to figure that out.
can we approve the payment pending clarification of the BSNA?
Right, that was gonna be
So that
my
they don't have-
question, I guess.
so
So
they
they
don't-
don't
so
have
they
to
don't-
wait,
So they don't have to wait another 2 weeks to get paid?
right?
Was this in regards to the due tos and due froms that I mentioned when I was giving the first quarter report?
It's more of, it's every year scheduled transfers. So.
So it is the same ones I was talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
Which the issue we're running into is it shows it's been moved, but it also shows it's still sitting in the account. So
Is
that's
that-
why I haven't moved any of those yet, because we're seeing them already in those 2 accounts, which is.
are you moving the cash and then moving the actual fund balance?
No, we haven't moved it at all yet, Jamie, and it's sitting in the 2 lines, so I don't know. That shouldn't even. That's why I'm going out for CPA. There's something where it's reporting that it's already moved. So if I move it again, it's going to adjust that balance. But it's also still showing that we have it in the other account as well, and that's without anything being touched in there. That's why I wanted to get the CPA, because I'm kind of at a standstill there, and BSNA didn't understand it either.
So I go back to Bill's question. I think my thought would be that we keep it on the agenda and approve the payment, to John Henry pending, clarification on accounts. So that we're not,
yes,
so
that's
that,
fine.
yeah, so that we're not holding
I'll just,
payment.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll just leave it on the
That's,
agenda.
all right,
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
okay. Is that good with you, Bill?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to drag them out. We've already
Right.
done payment to them 2 weeks. I wouldn't want to do it another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. Not fair to them. Okay, all right, so I believe that's it then on agenda additions. And we've acted on each one, so we are good to go there. So now going on to public comment then. This is the first time, I mean, this is the reinstatement of the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. This is only for items that are on tonight's agenda, only again for items that are on tonight's agenda. So if it's not on the agenda, you cannot, please don't use this time to make a comment. So if you could please use the raise hand feature. And we have a lot of phone numbers, so I don't know how I'm gonna do that. If there's anybody that would like to make a public comment now during the raise, please use the raise hand feature.
While you're poking through there, could you unmute Mr. Friel as well? Pretty please.
I'll think about it. Just kidding. Has anybody seen a raised hand? I haven't seen one yet.
I do not see any.
So do I have to hit each phone number then?
You could
All
unmute all
night.
your phone numbers and like
Huh?
you did before. You could do all your phone numbers like you usually do.
Right. Well, if I just unmute everybody, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just hit all. So I'm basically gonna unmute all the phone numbers or hit ask to unmute. So if you have a question, it's usually a little bit of a delay, but just that's the only way to do it, I guess. So I just started with 736-3111. Sorry, 736-3111. Okay, not hearing anything. 820-2427. Again, 820-2427. Seven 5729. 739-5729. Seven 5729. 739-5533. 739-5533.
And in the comment section, somebody said that you're still on mute except for board members. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I didn't unmute everybody at once. I'm going one by one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so. I mean, I have to click. Basically, I can just say ask to unmute. I guess I could just say unmute all, I guess, but then I'll have to mute everybody again. So, hello? All right, so I just hit the button of allowing participants to unmute themselves. So you should be able to unmute yourself now if you have a public comment. Can somebody just try? I guess Tom, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to have a public comment, but Tom, can you unmute yourself? Starts with a W, last name.
This is Tim Friel. I just tried it and it worked. And
Okay,
it would be great if it could kind of be
Yeah.
standing protocol.
I'm here.
okay. I was gonna say, actually, Tim, I had already unmuted you, so,
Yeah, I know. And there's
Yeah.
an issue if I have to mute myself because I have German Shepherds and cars racing by on Newman Street.
oh, got ya. So
And
you
then you
did
have to
and it did
unmute.
work? Okay, cool. All
But we
right.
can address this as a protocol issue later, but it
Mhm.
worked. So I'll mute myself again. Watch this.
All right. All right, Tom, sorry, it did work for you?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, all right. Is there anybody then that has public comment at this time? All right,
Oh, much ado for nothing, huh?
I guess.
Moving on.
Yeah. I was able to unmute, yeah, so Pete, yeah, so I mean, it looks like everybody can unmute themselves, so I guess if they had public comment, they would be speaking up, correct? Oh, there's Karen Johnson. Karen, I did hit ask to unmute, so you should. Karen?
Okay, I'm new at Zoom meetings.
That's
Does
okay.
this mean that this is our only opportunity? Does this mean this is our only opportunity to comment on things such as the sale of public land, of township owned lands?
Right now, the public comment session that we're in right now is only, you are able to make a comment on things that are on the agenda this evening. You have to state your name and your address, and then you have up to 4 minutes to speak. So
So does that mean I cannot speak when the discussion gets going about an issue?
you are not, the public does not engage in conversations during the board dialogue. It's only during public comment, which is at the beginning of the meeting and the end of the meeting. So the beginning of the meeting, again, which we're doing right now, is for items that are to be discussed on tonight's agenda. The end of the meeting is at the very end, and that is after we've already acted. So if there's something that we are going to be acting on tonight, that you have an item that you would like to make comments on, then I would suggest that you do it now. So that being said, if you have something, you have 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm not sure, what's going to proceed with the discussion, and I don't want to sound negative about anything, but because I know you're all really trying hard to do the right thing, but I just want to say I'm Karen Johnson from Mankato, Michigan. I consider Oscoda my hometown. I shop there. It's where I go, and I would love to see fertile field developed for the people and not for private enterprise or residents, because it is such a noisy street. It's so visible to the public. It could be the jewel as you drive down 23. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Okay. Is there anybody else that has public comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Please state your
Okay.
name.
My name's Angela Martin. My telephone number is 739-9662. And I wanted to know why we have a need to sell fertile field, because that's what I'm hearing. And also, I don't want to particularly see it as apartments or stuff like that either. I prefer to see it as a park. But I'm wanting to know why why the old school behind ACE couldn't be used for apartments. That makes more sense to me. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Angela, where did you say you resided?
I beg your pardon?
Where did you say you lived? I'm sorry.
I live on Hughes Street in Oscoda.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? For public comment, I think I see another raised hand. Bob, I believe I hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this Robert Tazer, Oscoda Township, Hillcrest Drive. My comment actually does have to do with an agenda item, and that has to do with the disposition of properties. At the work session on Friday, was discussed about Mr. Dickerson brought forward 3 properties that he would like to have discussion about, not listing them for sale or anything of that nature, like listing with a real estate agent. He was asking for a disposition of properties. And with that being said, that is just, and I believe that's just a dialogue that we're talking about here about, can he take RFPs on, or not RFP, but can he take letters of intent on these properties? He's looking for direction. That's the way I understood that. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me on that. But that's what my comment is about. There's been social media outburst about the sale of Fertall Field, and I don't really know where that's coming from, other than what comments were being made by actual board members, but on social media. But I think the question here was, are those three properties mentioned available to take letters of intent on those properties? So it was I understood that to be a clarification from the board to the director of the Economic Improvement Committee. So that's my comment. I believe there's a bunch of hype going on that needs to be clarified, because I think I may be wrong on this, so correct me if I am, but that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Does anybody else sorry, have public comment?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Brian Hale, Oscoda. Yeah, I wasn't even going to comment in this section, but I comment to the board. Well, this is all promulgated by the original letter of intent that was behind closed doors from Renovar. So, yeah, everybody's aware. So, forget social media. They know what's going on. And it looks like someone's trying to sell Fertall. So, I mean, my God. Well, we'll review that at the end of the meeting. You guys need to get rolling anyway. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Oh, was that the raised hand? Oh, no, Katie Anderson. Okay, Katie.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm Caitlin Anderson. I live in Oscoda Township, and I've lived here for like 25 years, and I'm commenting on the issue about Fertall Field, because I'd like it to be left as like a park and stuff. And I believe someone mentioned, like, if we can get it connected to the bike trail, there might be grant money available. And I would much rather see that than a private developer come in, because I just think if a private developer comes in, it's just all about money. It's not about pleasing the general community. And because most of us have spoken more than once that we just want it left as a park, and that would make us very happy.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, one last call then for public comment. All right, hearing none, I am going to mute all and then go back and unmute, because that's the only way I know how to do it. Unmute. Was there something else in the background? Okay. Okay, so just bear with me. Josh, you should be. Tim, Steve.
I'm back.
Bill. Mitch. Steve, are you back?
I'm here.
Okay, Bill.
Yes.
Okay. Jamie, Tim, I mean, is everybody,
Yes.
did I miss somebody?
Tim's here.
Okay. Is Jeremy? Somehow I think I missed him. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Sorry. Sorry, Jeremy, you were hiding. Okay, everybody should be back on, correct?
Awesome.
Jamie, are you on?
Looks like she's muted still.
Well, I hit it, but sorry, it's a little fickle today.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. All right.
Did you get
We're
Tim as
moving-
well?
Huh?
Did you get Mr. Friel as well?
No. I will. I think he said he usually mutes himself anyways, then I have to unmute him if we do need him, but he has a dog. Oops, that was the timer. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes. We have work session meeting minutes from April 23rd, 2021. Is there any comments on that? Okay, we have regular meeting minutes from April 26th, 2021. Any comments on those?
I would like to make a comment on the first item on that, the postponement of the audit presentation. That was passed unanimously by the board. I would like to know who interceded in an action by the board to change that. I think it's unfortunate. I think if at the very least the public is doing an apology. There was an article in the newspaper last Wednesday in the Oscoda Press that said there was going to be a meeting on Wednesday, May 5th, to review the audit presentation. And that is someone changing a board action is a violation of Michigan law. So I would like to know who's responsible for that before we approve these minutes.
Right, I guess that would be me, Bill. I didn't know I had sent out an email asking if there were other times, which kind of initiated the confusion on the meeting itself. So I do apologize to the board as well as the community. I did not intend to take us down the wrong path. I was just trying to get that meeting facilitated for everybody to be there.
Okay, that's we just need to make sure that those things like that don't happen, because no individual board member has the right or the ability to change a motion of the board as a whole.
Right, yeah, like I said, I think it was just confusion when I asked. It just kind of threw everybody off. So again, I apologize if that got that out of the way there, but won't happen again.
Okay.
Any other comments on April 26th? Then we have the finance payment of bills. We have the prepaid run from May 4th.
I would like to thank Ms. McGuire for making those corrections that I pointed out on Friday of the items that were in there that originally we had an amount on there for that prepaid of $90,817.12. And it's now down to $25,178.94. Appreciate her making those changes.
I appreciate you catching it. Thank you, Bill.
You bet.
Okay, anything on the check run from May 11th? All right, if not, then I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
I second Jamie's motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right. There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Spencer to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the superintendent's report. First on the agenda, we have the analytical services invoice, capital improvement bonds. Mitch?
Yeah.
Did I? Yeah. Sorry, I was making sure I unmuted you.
Yes. I would recommend that the board make a motion to approve the S&P global invoice in the amount of $812.50 to be broken as follows. Half, which would be $5,906.25 in water under insurance and bonds, which is 591-000-910 dot or 0.100. The other half of $5,906.25 would be under sewer insurance and bonds, which would be 590-000-910.100.
Is there any discussion or questions? Fair motion?
I move to approve the invoice from S&P Global in the amount of $11,812.50 for analytical services.
Just one question on that. We will need to make an appropriation, I believe, each one of those to come up with that amount.
There is sufficient funds in those for that purpose.
I'm showing that the insurance and bonds, the budgeted amount was $4,000.
We moved a little money around to make that work. So,
okay, so an appropriation's been made.
yes.
Okay.
How is that appropriation made? Was it made somehow outside of the board?
It's moving money within that fund
From GL account.
from
That's an
different.
authorized, yeah.
And again, this money will be reimbursed through the SRF and DWRF bond proceeds.
So do we need an appropriation in order for that to happen?
No.
Or,
No.
okay, so
No,
you move
he-
the money, everything's good.
Yes. Move money from another line item. Doesn't change the bottom line. Is there, I'm sorry, we have a motion. I mean, are there additional questions or are we ready for roll call?
Is there a motion in a second?
Yeah, there was a motion by, I'm sorry, yes, not yeah. Yes, there was a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton.
To approve the invoice from S&P Global for
Right.
$11,812.50.
Correct. And then you asked the question.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the cemetery revenue appropriations request in the amount of $6,487.55.
Pretty straightforward. We need appropriation to be able to pay this. And it would be needed for 101-276-956.000 miscellaneous cemetery fund.
So there's no money, there's not enough money to cover this bill in
No.
that miscellaneous cemetery fund?
No, and there's really nowhere else I can pull it from that won't affect the other funds. The other line.
So what? So with all due respect, Mitch, what are you asking us to do here? You don't have a solution?
I need an appropriation of that amount to be able to make this payment to Oscoda Township.
From where?
Right. Oh, right. When we make an appropriation, we talk about where it's coming from and where it's going to. So I'm asking, do you have a solution to this? Or are you telling us you don't have a solution to this and you want us to figure it out during the board meeting?
No.
Okay, explain to me better, because I'm not understanding what's written
Sure.
here in the.
We do not have sufficient funds in the cemetery for this
I
purpose.
understand.
Okay.
Correct. Exactly.
We need an appropriation from fund balance to be able to make this payment,
So from fund balance, okay.
because we do not have other funds that I can draw from to do this.
What? Okay, so when we do an appropriation, we do it from a line item number, like the 101 number that you're seeing there that you put in.
Mhm.
That's a fund that would have to go into. So what fund do you want it to come from?
Moment, please.
Sure.
Actually, can you move on and I'll keep talking and I'll.
Okay, we'll need to have a motion to
Postpone to
table,
later.
postpone. Thank you. Thank you.
Postpone to later in the agenda.
Very good.
Can I ask just a quick question on
Sure.
this item before we move on? Why is it that we, in our contract with Oscoda, it states that we will make this payment to them every year after the audit is complete? And I don't understand why we're having to pay 2 years payment at once. We did this before. There were several years when it didn't get paid and we had to come up with a larger sum. Makes it way more difficult to appropriate the funds when it's 2 years that we're having to pay, when we actually should only be having to be paying one, half this amount, roughly.
Right.
And if this is some, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Like I mentioned at the last meeting, Bill, I caught it that it didn't get paid for 2000. It didn't get paid in the beginning of 2020 for 2019. So I decided to put it on my beginning year, like the beginning of my year things to take care of it. Contracts involving the township and other things are actually a part of the superintendent's job. It's under the resolution, one of the items under his resolution of job duties.
Well, I guess that's my question is, we have these various contracts that we're obligated to pay, and someone needs to be keeping track of, and especially contracts that are on a regular basis. We pay either every month or every year or whatever the situation is, so that we're paying our obligations in a timely manner when they're due. And I remember a couple of years ago, we had to make up 4 payments to Oscoda, 4 years that had been missed in these payments. And so, when we have to make 4 years worth of payments, or in this case, 2 years worth of payments instead of 1, it makes a larger amount, makes it more difficult to appropriate the funds and everything else. So we need to have a better process of overseeing the contracts that we have and making sure that they're being, the obligations are being paid and they're being met.
I agree. I think a good place to work on that would be when we're talking about the budget. Because if you look in the budget here, there wasn't even money, I don't believe, even for 1 year's payment. I'd have to look to be sure, but so yeah, I don't even think the money was even appropriated for 1 year.
But the conversation we had the last time about this had to do with that we don't get an invoice. Because there isn't an invoice, there isn't a piece of paper that initiates a payment, because that seemed to be the way that we were looking for this. And so there was a discussion about how we were going to handle recurring payments that don't have invoices, things which are associated with contracts. And it doesn't sound like that was ever established. Whether it be the clerk's office or the treasurer's office, it wasn't put in place. So it could be allocated and it could be budgeted and it could have completed all those other steps, but it wouldn't create an automatic check.
Correct. So I think maybe sitting down with the superintendent's office and the clerk's office, we can come out with a plan of who's going to take care of what.
Does that not include the treasurer's office?
I did say that.
Oh, sorry, I heard clerks and superintendents. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I remember it from a couple years ago, and I saw that it wasn't on the list to be paid. And so I asked the admin secretary about it, and then I started searching for the shared revenue and those type of things that they based it off of the last time. And I was the one that created the spreadsheet and stuff.
But and you're indicating also that it wasn't budgeted for in 2019. or in 2020. So I would assume not in 2021 as well.
Correct. If there was not enough money budgeted for any of those years.
So we need to look at that because it would be, I mean, obviously, we're just starting on the, are gonna need to be starting on the 2021, I mean, I'm sorry, 2022 budget. So that would be under the superintendent's does that budget, correct?
Mm-hmm. He does.
Great, for 2022, so. Okay. Do we still need to postpone or till later, Mitch, or?
He's muted.
Oh, okay.
I would recommend that you take it from the fund balance for 101 personally.
Sorry, I'm trying to find him.
While you're looking to try to get Mitch back online, I want
I
to say,
got him.
Jamie, I appreciate you trying to help Mitch, but the fact is, as in the last board meeting, I said we need to get this resolved where when we get to this agenda, all the account numbers, all the line numbers are all known so that we simply go
Can
through
pay
the
it.
agenda, execute it, and rat-a-tat-tat, because these meetings are simply belabored by confusion and disorganization. And I'm sorry, but that's exactly how I feel my time is being spent. I don't think it's efficient for the public. I can't imagine it's efficient for the operation at Township Hall. And I really insist that we get these numbers. We shouldn't be having to play these games now. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Agreed. And at this point, I think we need to move on. We have a lot on the agenda.
Right.
Yes, we do.
I move to delay the cemetery revenue appropriations request till later in the meeting.
It's
For
table or postpone
It's what?
is the
What-
term.
Postpone is
Table or postpone, not
table
delay.
it. Yes, table it. Thank you. Table it. I
I
amend my
still
motion to
support.
table it.
Okay, so it's Mr. Cummings, I'm sorry, Mr. Spencer made the motion to table it. Mr. Westerbarth supported that. So later on in the meeting, correct?
Thank you,
Yes.
Tim. I couldn't come up with the doggone the word.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes,
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next on is the OOP erosion project payment request. We're just approving the payment itself.
Yes, and just for the record, I would be happy to help the clerk and the superintendent with the transfers if possible. Nobody reached out to me, otherwise maybe we could have had this taken care of.
yeah, I would appreciate that, Jamie, thank you.
well, I will make a motion to approve paying John Henry Excavating an amount of $123,000 for work performed at the Old Orchard Park Phase 1 of Project Shore Erosion and Drainage, and payment from funds to be determined later.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
yes,
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the Sting Narcotics Law Enforcement Services. Mitch?
This invoice is for services for 2020, 2021. The invoice is for $9,795.80. I would recommend the board make a motion to approve that payment in the amount of $9,795.80 to be paid from professional fees 207-000-801.000.
I don't believe we have a contract with Sting, do we?
We do.
We do. I'm pretty sure that the previous board negated any contracts that we had with that organization.
Voice would say otherwise.
I don't believe so.
The contract that they did, we don't have a police officer with them anymore.
Yes.
We
Well,
haven't had for a few years now.
I don't, yeah, I don't think that Sting really, really served Oscoda well, which is why they took the officer away from him. I moved to deny paying him of the invoice to Sting Narcotics Law Enforcement Services.
There's,
I'll support that.
I'll have to disagree. I'm on the Sting board and they're very active in Iosco County, even though we don't have an officer that's involved. We have two people that are on their Sting board and we go to their quarterly meetings and they provide information and different things that are going on. And I think right now, more than ever, with the meth concerns and opiate concerns, I think it's important that we still help contribute. It's contribute based on per capita. So there's a few areas that don't have an officer, but they still contribute to the Sting operation.
Yeah, Jeremy, I'd have to ask you where you got your idea from, that they just weren't effective or they weren't doing contributing in a way that was worth the invoice amount.
I was previous board meetings and speaking with other, previous board members that were that were around at the time. They thought that the Sting operations were concentrating their operations in other counties, and we weren't getting our bang for the buck. Our officer was being taken into other areas, and their time was being taken instead of serving the local community. They were serving other communities. I have full faith in our officers here in our township that we have hired, that we have, and that police our area. And I don't believe that we need to be paying outside, and not for this specific thing. I don't believe we need to be paying outside agencies for additional services that our officers are more than capable of providing.
Okay, I have a question then for Mitch. Was this discussed at all with the police chief? And what was his opinion?
He's the one that sent it to me to be paid.
Okay. That's a good start.
Yeah, he didn't have any objections. He sent it straight to us.
And our police chief sits on the Sting board as well.
So
I think maybe the confusion is at one point, previous board didn't feel that the commitment of a full-time Oscoda officer to the Sting group was appropriate. It was, I mean, that was a cost of, well over $50,000 a year. So we pulled that officer off the Sting detail and agreed to simply pay an annual fee of this $9,795.80 for participation of the Sting group assisting our Oscoda Township officers in the drug enforcement in the various counties that are served by this.
Well, I can say that our police department does provide a report that I've gotten that shows, all the types of calls and whatnot. Do we have a report from the Sting organization showing the assists, showing what they've done to?
I can get you that information. I can get you some information, but some information I'm not allowed to give. I'll get something that I can provide to the board.
I know they did list in the packet the amounts of drugs confiscated.
In Iosco County?
Yes.
Each county that they serve. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they divide it up so you can see it though.
Yeah, and there were actually a couple right here in Oscoda. And you have to understand, some of these officers are undercover, so can't really talk a lot about it, but they do assist our police officers in making some of these arrests. So it shows up on, sometimes I believe it shows up on the Oscoda progress of the police department and arrests and prosecutions that are made. But a lot of that comes from information from the Sting Task Force.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to deny
Can we
payment.
Okay, thank you. Couldn't recall what the motion was. Thank you
Yep,
for
to
that.
deny payment. We've had quite a bit discussion. Does your motion still stand?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer? And you are,
Yeah, I don't
and you're
don't
still
think we need
supporting
them.
it, Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Okay. Then we need, I guess I'll just comment. I mean, our police chief recommended payment on this. I would think if he didn't have, if he had a concern, he would voice it. That being said, I don't like to go on personally hearsay on previous board members' interpretations, I guess. I mean, is that all you're getting it from, Jeremy, or did you actually talk with the police department and different things?
I've spoken with, you know, a couple citizens, and I don't believe I've ever spoken with a police officer about it. I figured if it was important to them that they'd be on the meeting to discuss it today. But seeing none, I call the question.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a motion and support. Let's do roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
No,
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
No,
Mr. Sutton, no, Ms. Richards,
No, motion failed.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Sting Narcotics bill that was submitted.
I'll support that.
I'm sorry, there was a motion by Ms. McGuire. Was the support by Mr. Palmer?
as well as me. I don't know who was first.
Okay. Well, do you guys have a preference who gets on there?
Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah. Your
right.
call.
All right, I started writing Palmer, so you're there, sorry. So there's a motion by Mr. or Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer to pay the Sting invoice as submitted. Excuse me. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
No.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Westerbarth,
No.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the IT proposal. Again, we don't have a contract in the packet, but we do have a lengthy summary of questions and answers that we were supposed to be reviewing.
So the discussion at the work session was the presentation of the email that was forwarded to the contained comments and statements that Mr. Spencer and I had worked out since the last board meeting, and we provided to Mr. Mitchell so that he could forward to IT Right. And so he was giving us here the opportunity to hear back from what IT Right, what the responses were. And effectively, here, I guess we're looking for, Mr. Mitchell, is you just want to know whether or not there is any concern by the board as to what the answers were. And I guess if there's no concern, then we're going to push for contract, get them to put it finally in wording and make a contract out of it.
Yeah, unless there's something that they answer that you were really concerned about, so.
So I don't, this isn't my motion, my report item here, but it's one I've been involved in. So I guess if I could just jump to the question, does anybody on the board have any concerns about what is stated in their response?
I guess I would defer to Jeremy and Tim in regard to the responses as to you both have been working on this. So I'm comfortable with your comfort level.
I do know that this, this came up with the previous board, and there were some concerns raised by Mr. Cummings, and I think they were quite appropriate. I do remember one of them specifically was that there was no language in here about an exact amount of how much they would charge per hour for after hours work. It was just kind of left as into fog, and there is an actual number now associated with that fee. So I think, if nothing else, that particular thing has been corrected. And in my thinking at the time when this was brought up, that was probably one of the primary things that needed to be resolved. So we aren't entering into a contract that we would be paying something that we had no idea what it might be. So that portion of it, I'm happy to say being resolved, and everything else, again, like you said, Ann, I would refer, the wisdom of Mr. Spencer and Mr. Cummings. But I think in my way of looking at this, I think we know over the years, IT Right has done a good job for the township. And I think getting some of these things nailed down in a contract is a good thing. And I think it all looks good.
I was actually kind of
Fair enough.
hoping that they would have taken our responses and actually drafted the contract with them in there, highlighting the areas where they changed the contract to accommodate our requests. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So I guess, yes, I would think we should push for the contract with the changes that we've requested so that we can review it and move on.
Oh, excuse me. I don't think we need to act then, do we?
No, just
Okay.
give
No,
a basic
just
approval. Just tell them.
All right,
Yeah,
let's go on to the next
move
one
on.
then. Okay. All right, drop off refuse, change of venue. We now have a contract in there with Travis Sanitation.
I had a question on that. We originally were going to have 2 drop-off dates. Are we? And I see, I know I'm jumping ahead to the summer newsletter, but that in there it only has the one in September. And I guess my confusion in this contract was that there's several references to an RFP back in 2014. I'm not exactly sure what the connection is there to this contract, but it seems a little vague as to, because they mention in there that typically this with Travis would be done in the spring, and what we're advertising in the summer newsletter is the September drop off. So I was a little confused by the whole contract.
So that's because this newsletter goes out, Bill, July 1st, so it'll be past the June 12th date.
Yeah, I understand that, and that would have applied if it were still going to be at sunrise. But I guess the point I was struggling to make is that originally we were going to have 2 drop-off dates, and this only looks like it would be 1 based on the cost. Or am I incorrect? Are we still planning to have a date in June?
We are still planning to do the one in June with Travis.
Okay. Because the price that's quoted is the $3,250, I believe it is, per year.
So then that needs to be addressed in the contract. I would believe that's a Mitch and Tammy question.
Yeah, and that's where I say a lot of it seemed like a lot of the language in here is coming from a 2014 proposal, and since that was included in here, I don't know what that refers to, but the amount that they're specifying is it states per year, and has the number of roll-offs and all those different things.
It should say per event.
And it should be per event, yes.
Yes, correct. And Jeremy is muted.
Oh, sorry.
And Mitch,
I thought it was awfully
yeah.
nice, quiet. Sorry, just kidding.
Oh, Mitch, could you tell us what occurred? Why Sunrise? We thought we were dealing with Sunrise when we passed the motion in a prior board meeting, and something went wrong.
Yeah, so my office received communication that they would not be able to do it. And so honestly, I didn't want the alternative contractor to not have that date. So I tried to lock them down so that we would hold the date that we originally stated and not end up with a no date.
So they
And
came back after the fact and said, we can't do it now?
That's pretty much where I'm at, yeah.
Did you reach out to Sunrise in a timely manner after we had passed the motion?
I did not talk to them, so. Okay, so my office did, and like I said, then we got this contact that, no, we can't do it. And so then I pushed out to Travis, can you do it?
So we passed the motion based on,
That we thought we were all good, and then there was a change.
but so were they contacted and was the date verified with them before we voted on it as a board?
If you're asking me, I did not verify that.
It's a yes or no question.
No.
Were they contacted before before the board voted?
I would assume yes. All right, so I can't speak for my assistant, so I'd have to ask her.
Well, we all know what they say about assumptions, so just checking.
Just for history purposes, this happened once before. We were planning on Sunrise having the thing, and they dropped out at the last minute. They didn't have insurance in place, and we switched to Travis, kind of at a last minute thing. They actually did an okay job. The only problem with Travis is that people that are waiting to get into the facility have to line up along the shoulder of the road out on Kings Corner Road, whereas Sunrise, they have a parking lot you can pull in. There's plenty of room. But Travis did do a fine job with the drop-off. So I'm not adverse to having Travis do this. It's just that the contract itself is confusing as to what it is that we're actually contracted for. If we're still doing two, I'm all in favor of that. But the language in the contract, if you read it, is a little blurry along those lines. So I'm all in favor of having Travis and having two drop-offs for the residents of Oscoda. But I think that the language in the contract needs to be cleared up on that point.
So let's postpone to the next meeting, and I will have the things scoured and clean.
When is the first drop off?
June 12th.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Right, I was gonna ask the question about the RFP proposals identified from 2014. I just kind of looked at it today, so, okay. All right, so we need a motion to postpone.
No, let's do that.
I'll make a motion that we postpone the drop-off refuge contract till the next meeting.
I'd support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer to support, or I'm sorry, to postpone the agreement until the next meeting. Roll call, please. I wonder if he got muted. Josh?
No, I'm here. Hold
Okay,
on.
all right, sorry.
I'll make sure I'm keeping up with our additions here. 1 second. Gotcha. Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion
Can we
carried.
go back to cemetery revenue appropriations request now?
I'm fine with that.
Great. So
If we tabled it, doesn't it have to go to the end of the meeting?
I don't think I don't know.
We might as well just get it done.
So it would come from general fund contingency, which is 101-890-000.000. And the budget amount for it is 15,000. So we would be taking the $6,477.55 from that fund.
Can you repeat that number? I'm sorry.
Sure. It would be under 101-890-000 .000 general fund contingency.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appropriate $6,487.55 to Fund 101-276-956-00, the miscellaneous cemetery fund from account 101-890-000-00 general fund contingency.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings, I believe.
It
Roll
was.
call, please. Huh?
Yes, it was me. That's
Okay.
correct. And I think also, I think there's 3 zeros after the dots, not 2, not that it matters, but just to be clear.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on to other. We're on the Skill Avenue review of purchase proposals. Todd, I just unmuted you.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, you should have 2 proposals that were received for the purchase of Skill Avenue. I know we covered this a little bit in the work session on Friday. I know that the board had, in my estimation, generally requested more information about those proposals. Although after I considered this over the weekend, I think we would be better served by you guys deliberating these proposals. And then, if you're interested in one or both proposals, identify specific items of information that you would like. I just feel like the request from Friday was too generic for me to do any good in the process. And if you do have additional information that you would like, then I would request that the superintendent document that request of information, and he can deliver that to me in an email so we have some written proof of what my job assignment is.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you a couple of my comments. The Berghoff one, it's not complete, so I don't even know if we even need to act on that or ask for any information. They didn't submit a completed ROI. The Danto one seems to be complete. 200 units, multifamily, and it's all what we're looking for. However, I'd like to see, kind of a financing plan from them, a timeline, what that looks like to build, let's say 50 units, what kind of grants they're going to be looking into, just so we can kind of see where the money's coming from. And I'd like to see professional references from them.
Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think I agree with Mr. Wurstabarth. The Danto submission is fairly complete. However, we only got this at about 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, and of course, over the weekend with being Mother's Day, and didn't really get a great opportunity to review all the information that's in this packet. I would like to have a little more time to consider it, and maybe be able to ask some questions, Mr. Dickerson, at our EIC meeting tomorrow about some items, and maybe bring this up at the next board meeting for discussion and possible, approval or denial, one way or the other.
Okay. I guess similar comments. It appears, like you said, Steve, that the one proposal is not complete whatsoever compared to the other one. But I think, Todd, you were indicating that you would like a summary of questions emailed to the superintendent and they get those to you, or are you good with discussing it at the EIC meeting tomorrow as well?
Well, I guess my thought was, as the questions are being, is you're making points at this meeting tonight about what questions you'd like to answer or additional information you'd like. I'd like the superintendent to be documenting that and then provide me that list in writing.
I'll be happy to forward my questions to Mitch.
Okay, I think there was a June, is there a June 4th? Is that what I saw on there for a response?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah,
June
so,
4th.
yeah, so I mean, I guess we do have a little bit of time, but not a ton. But in all, an interesting proposal. It's like they've got a lot of experience. I guess my question from Friday, Todd, to you for a summary is I believe that I thought you had met maybe with both of these contractors. I wasn't sure if that was the case or not. I know there was like a pre-meeting or whatever for some questions. I just wondered your thoughts, I guess, in regard to a summary of your thought process on what was received.
I don't think it's my responsibility to make the recommendations or comments to the board about these proposals. I don't think that's within the purview of my responsibility is not to make a recommendation to the board.
I guess I wasn't asking for recommendation. I thought you met with the contractors just to see if you had any thoughts. But if you're not comfortable making comments, that's fine.
I have a question. Oh, I have a question.
Okay.
Included with the next information was the title, The Process of Real Property Disposition. And that was that we had all agreed on was a good process. I know Todd wants to get our questions, but I have a question for Todd. In any of the 10 things that are listed, any of the LOIs or PAs must include the following information. Do you feel that one over the other, do you feel like any of them have all 10 of those things?
Certainly one of these proposals is more complete than the other. I mean, and I went through with both of them of the disposition process. They have that document. They have all of the information they should have. It's up to them to submit as complete a proposal as they can. Not my responsibility to coach them through this process. Just educate them on what the expectation is. I did that. And you're looking at what they provided.
Thank you. I do agree with Steve and Ann about the one is got definitely a lot more detail than the other one.
Okay, so I guess we'll, no action. We're basically gonna get a list of questions that we have to Mitch to get those to Todd. And then some additional questions might be coming from the EIC during the meeting tomorrow. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, so do we need a motion to postpone to the next regularly scheduled meeting? Based on obtaining further information? No?
I don't think so, because we just added if we want another
Just the
agenda, and there's no
information, it's not
action today.
necessarily an action, right?
Yeah, it's other.
Excuse me. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the property disposition discussion. We were provided information about 4 o'clock this afternoon, I believe, on this topic. So, I guess before you get going, Todd, I had just one comment in regard to the task that we did ask. We being or I felt that we, the township board, asked. We, the board, asked the EIC to come to take a list, to get the list of all the township owned properties, have a map that identified the locations. When that was complete, we were going to meet to discuss all of those in regard to what had to be kept based on what it was or wasn't, and what we would consider disposing. So I thought we were going to do it all in one fail swoop, so to speak.
Yep, that was the original assignment. I've updated the board multiple times on sort of that progress. I've educated you that the dynamic between doing it the long way and the ways of hand mapping it, getting the assessors time and attention for that was limiting. And with the advent of the GIS system, maybe that would make more sense and maybe it would be more efficient. And then I updated you again saying, gee, it doesn't look like the GIS system is going to be much help because there's still a lot of questions whether it's ready to go. How do we use it? Who's going to train us? There was a lot of questions.
Right.
So some time has passed and now we have to deal with, we've already talked to the listing agent about Ani. We've talked about, will we send that to auction? In the meantime, I've talked to 2 prospective parties that might be interested in securing Ani on a purchase. So that becomes sort of a time-sensitive issue that the board should weigh in on. We've just completed the acquisition of the Lake Street redevelopment, so we own that whole block now. We have some interested folks in that, so timing then becomes more of the essence. And as long as we're talking about those 2, there's always continued interest on what do we want to do about Furtaw. And I see, in my opinion, we can kick this can down the road another few weeks, another couple of months until I can deliver the global list, or we can evaluate the opportunities to list these 3 properties as disposable or non-disposable. It's up to you. And that's all we're really talking about. What classification would you like them? And go from there. And it's your call. It's your choice. I'm not here to, say one way or the other. I'm just asking you if you are willing to classify any of those 3, either disposable or non-disposable.
Okay. Sorry. I guess my thought is the board has already identified Ani Medical, the previous board, I should say, identified Ani Medical as a disposable property when they did list it with the former real estate company that we held, and then actually did another RFP. They didn't end up entering a contract with Friedman, but they did advertise it as well, along with the former Artisan Hall that we did end up selling. So I feel that the Ani Medical has been already decided as a property to dispose of. In regard to the other ones, again, I feel that having discussion where there's time allotted to talk about different things is important. So that's just my thought. So again, I think Friday, there was an agenda topic of property disposition discussion. My question at the time on Friday work session was there was nothing in the packet that indicated what that discussion was going to be. So I asked the question and you did reply that you were going to be making the recommendation that the township board consider the disposition of 3 properties. And you identified those 3 properties as Ani Medical, the Furtaw Field, and the block that is located between Lake Street, Michigan, and River Road. And then since then, we've got additional information that you provided this afternoon at about 4 o'clock.
So are you looking for a motion to move those properties officially over to, change their disposition to disposable? Is that what we need to do here?
Who are you asking that question to?
Whoever has the answer.
Yeah, I guess I would, if you, well, you guys decide if you want to take it as only to discuss. That's certainly your prerogative. If you want to take it to discussion and then individually make nominations on whether they should be at this point in time disposable or non-disposable, I leave that at your discretion.
Well, based on Ms. Richards' commentary on the Ani Medical Clinic, I would move to say that to change the disposition of the Ani Medical Clinic to disposable so that we can sell it.
Support.
Excuse me, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Ms. McGuire to identify Ani Medical as being able to be sold. Is there further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
I'd like to make a motion that we make Oscoda Lake Street redevelopment site as disposable and allow the EIC to solicit RFPs.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Ms. McGuire in regard to the Lake Street property. You're talking the whole block then, Steve?
The whole block that's identified in the sheet.
Okay.
If you pull up the attachment.
Well,
From
with
Michigan
the
to
addition of the
River.
process that we just,
Yeah.
the building we just got.
It includes the 227 River property, the whole block.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Ms. McGuire for that Lake Street block. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
I guess yes. Motion carried.
I will make a motion that we add the Furtoff Field property to the list of disposable properties.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that motion.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I have a question,
Okay,
and I'm not sure if Mimi McDonald might be on or if Bill Palmer might know the question. But what is Furtoff Field zoned as at right now?
State Street Business District.
State Street business? So is that is that mixed use or no?
Yes.
Is that mixed use 2 or 3? Do you know? Or is it 3 and 4?
It's CU, would be CU4. We're changing that. There will be no CU2. It'll all be CU4.
So let me see if I can find it here. It is, sorry, it's in my email right here. So listed under the CU4, CMU4 properties, that would already be listed as, so you wouldn't be able to make it a private park, correct? It says outdoor public owned parks and recreation facilities. There's no P there. So does that mean that is not zoned for that?
No, there can be green space that can be used as a park facility along with zoning of residential and commercial, all in a mixed use.
Okay, do you know what the Ps represent on the chart that the zoning office has by any chance?
The Ps.
Yeah, there's like a P or a SUP.
Oh, special use and primary use.
Okay, so I'm looking at this, and maybe is that going to change then? Because right now it says the public uses are only critical, supporting, and essential, and that has a P in it. And regular parks or own parks, recreational facilities does not have a primary use, but it still can be a use.
Yes, Yes,
Okay.
primary uses can actually be approved in most instances by the zoning administrator.
Okay,
Special use has to be approved by the planning commission.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Spencer. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No,
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, no, Ms. Richards,
No, motion carried. Okay, moving on to the Planning Commission nepotism issue, board protocol. Mitch?
You have in your packet, as per the legal counsel's recommendation, if the board wants to have the board protocol document stand as it is written at this time, then you are going to need to act to formally remove Mr. Minor from the Planning Commission. That would be done in the form of a motion. It was recommended the board would acknowledge the error and confirm the policy if it is a desire to have the board have Mr. Minor not serve on the Planning Commission as per the protocol document regarding nepotism.
I would move that we uphold the protocol document and admit our mistake and remove Mr. Minor from the Planning Commission board.
Support.
Okay, there's a
okay,
discussion.
We've been discussing this for multiple meetings. I call the question. I call the question. There's a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, the motion was by Mr. Spencer and the support was by Mr. Cummings or by Mr. Palmer?
That was by me, I
Okay,
think.
okay. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, going on to the Iosco County equalization use request. Mitch?
Basically, it's the recommendation that the board not be interested in this contract and to make a motion to decline entering into this contract.
I move to decline the Iosco County equalization contract.
support.
The motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the 2021 Benetton Lake Special Assessment District Herbicide Applicator Recommendation. Bids were received. 2 bidders were received and were reviewed by the lake manager, Lake Pro. Yeah, Lake Pro, sorry, not looking at it. And they made the recommendation to the weed committee, or they provided the information to the weed committee, and the weed committee did recommend moving forward with a contract with Clark. So looking for a motion of support if the board is inclined.
I'll make a motion to approve Clark Aquatics as the Benetton Lake herbicide applicator for 2021.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the land division, parcel number 062-026-300-02402. And a very large packet of information.
I make a motion that we approve land division parcel number 062-026-300-024-02 as specified in the packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer. Excuse me, to approve the land division as proposed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the 2021 summer newsletter. Mitch?
It was reviewed by the board, and so we need I guess, a motion to approve this.
I'm sorry, was there an update based on the board's feedback on Friday? Okay, sorry, I need to just take a look then real quick. Sorry, I don't see it in my my email.
I know Tammy was working on it.
Right. Yeah, I don't see the update that you say you
I
presented.
think it's in the packet.
No, that was the one that we corrected it in the Friday work session, right? Or no? Or are
Yeah,
you
it's
saying that
corrected-
that's been updated on the
it should
website?
be, yeah, it should be updated in the
I
packet.
think she offered, yeah.
Oh, sorry, then I didn't grab the latest version. My mistake. Sorry. And that's on me. Okay.
I think
I
there was
know-
just two areas that we were talking about,
Yes.
and that was the phone extension section.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to check on.
So, I mean,
It
is it
basically
length?
states that the previous direct phone lines will be removed as of August 1st, 2021.
Oh, fine. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that then, do we have a motion to approve the newsletter as submitted?
I so move.
Support.
Okay. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings to approve the 2021 newsletter. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the GIS in Oscoda Township.
Basically, it's just information. At first, I was gonna have them attend a meeting, but the information I received, that basically the GIS is online only at the assessor level with the BSNA program. There has been some issues between the merging of that and our BSNA. But there's not a public GIS platform at this time. So that's still not in any shape where the general public could just go onto the county's website, click on a GIS button, and then start looking around and probing around on a read-only basis. And then I did inquire with Nancy if she had not received any type of training on the use at this time. So we're not yet at a point where the township has the use of the GIS as far as the general public's concerned. And it might still be a little bit until the assessor's office has full use of the GIS after it's fully integrated into the BSNA system.
What kind of time frame are we looking at for full integration?
That I don't have an answer to that at this time.
Okay.
From them. But like I say, from the public standpoint, as a public piece, they're looking to, they've got one proposal and they're looking for another proposal to make a decision on the online GIS portion of the project. So that's on, obviously, and that's in the County Board of Commissioners' hands as far as that is concerned. But, and that's really, honestly, that's kind of the part that most of the public would honestly use, more so than the BS&A portion. And BS&A is just going to tie in things like tax payments to partners. A lot of people use GIS to take a look at properties they might be interested in purchasing, or an attempt to look at, they're not perfectly accurate, the lot line layer overlaid over aerial maps, and trying to count dimensions. And there's a dimension function where you can basically click on a point and then drag the line and click it again, and it'll give you measurements and a number of other features. And that's not yet at a point where it's for public. In fact, they don't even have that in a beta form. So.
It sounds like they kind of dropped the ball a little bit with this, more than a little bit, the implementation of GIS that we so long waited for. So, but anyways, all right, moving on to the special meeting for the 2020 audit.
Basically, I think it'd be prudent to have a formal motion to set a date and time for the special meeting for the 2020 audit presentation.
You mean like we did last meeting?
I knew you were going to say that, Jeremy.
What dates are we looking at?
I think Josh has a better handle on that. I think he's been polling the board.
Yeah, so it should came down to the 17th, 18th, or 20th next week, if that is.
What dates?
We need
Monday.
times.
17th, 18th, or 20th. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Daytime, evening?
Evening. We want to make sure the public can attend, so that was part of the issue, getting that rescheduled.
Yep, I think that's a great idea.
I'm with Jamie, and I can do any of those days. I'll make it work. We need to get this knocked out. So you guys pick the time and I'll be there.
Let's do the 18th.
6 p.m.
Sure,
Or
just do 6, because it's going to be a while.
all right. Well, I would make a motion that our special meeting for the 2020 audit review happen on May 18th, Tuesday, May 18th at 6 o'clock p.m.
Support.
Okay.
Is everybody good with that?
Is
Well,
Cindy
we'll find
good
out
with
in a
that?
minute.
I'm gonna vote on it.
I believe that, yeah, I believe that the, I'm not looking at her email, I guess, but Josh, I'm assuming you looked at her email and the May 18th was one of the dates?
Yes, those are the days she gave us, and I told her 6 or 7 p.m. would be the time. So those were the days she gave us to decide on.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire for the 2020 audit presentation to be scheduled for May 18th at 6 p.m. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wushtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, there's a raised hand on the screen, just letting the public know that we do not entertain questions at this time. So not sure what you're raising your hand about, but it would be under public comment section later in the board meeting. Somebody by the name of Mike, I believe. But moving on then to zoning work compensation.
I have a memo from Nancy with her request. So she's asking for $450 per week for times 3 for the 3 weeks she operated in the zoning department. And I would concur with her request.
So is this the prior or the past 3 weeks or the upcoming 3 weeks or?
No, this is the past, that'd be the past 3 weeks.
And this is where she was filling in for the zoning coordinator?
That's correct.
Oh, so this is, okay, excellent. Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
instead of having a contract with Rowe.
okay.
She handled it.
We asked,
very
we had not used them during that period, so.
Right.
Yeah, Nancy did an excellent job during those 3 weeks. I talked with her several times on some planning and zoning questions that she had. She actually had a meeting with myself and Mimi McDonald to go over a couple of things in planning and zoning. I think this is more than fair to compensate her. She spent a lot of time handling zoning and planning issues during that 3 weeks. So I would make a motion that we approve the additional $450 per week for 3 weeks for our assessor for additional work in the planning and zoning department.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes, with thanks.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you again, Nancy. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the additions. We had number 11, replacement of CDAM fellow.
Yes, I added that to the agenda tonight because I was made aware of the situation after a work session. So I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Dickerson and Mr. Iyer.
Okay, let me find them on the meeting. Okay, Todd, you should be unmuted.
I'm back.
Okay, I know I saw Dave earlier, but I see Vince. Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry, I missed you at the beginning. All right.
All right, so I wanted to recap the board on just the process that was taken and where we are with the hiring of our replacement for the CDAM fellow. I'll start this off by saying I'm very displeased with our superintendent and his actions, but to bring the board somewhat back up to speed, you're aware that Ryan Madison, who was our current CDAM fellow, gave notice the first part of April that he was moving on for a full-time opportunity. I worked with CDAM and they agreed to continue to financially support the township for the remaining 4 months, even though that's not an obligation that they had under the contract. I worked with Sarah Teeter over at CDAM, and we worked together to facilitate finding a replacement. CDAM and the MEDC posted the position. I knew of someone here locally that I thought might make a good fit and encouraged them to apply. At the end of the recruiting process, we had one and only one candidate. CDAM and I both interviewed the candidate separately, and we concurred she would make an excellent choice for a 4-month project. Last Thursday, I approached the superintendent, Mitch, to give him an update on where we're at with replacing Ryan, CDAM's plan to financially support that. And subsequently, the clerk's office was made aware of that plan as well. I asked how we might facilitate that, having a couple of options for us. He told me the best thing for us was to hire her as a seasonal employee. I asked Mitch if the board needed to weigh in or give approval, and he stated to me that no, the board did not need to approve this hire. So we went down to the clerk's office as I wanted to learn about the onboarding process. So the clerk, the deputy clerk, the superintendent, and I were all in the clerk's office to discuss this process. Felt like we were all on the same page when I left on Thursday. Where it becomes very disheartening is on Friday, I was made aware that our clerk had separately and on his own emailed the CDAM contact asking financial questions, but also process and selection questions. The only reason I know about this is that when Sarah replied back to his email, she copied me so that an appropriate person from the township was actually in the loop. I take big time offense that I was, excluded from this process. I don't understand why, if there were questions about any part of this, that we wouldn't have an internal meeting first to discuss it, vet our concerns, before we just went off and emailed CDAM, again, without my involvement. So I have a couple of, if the board wants to indulge, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask Mitch as to why the clerk did send that email on Friday and why I wasn't included, because I could have answered several of those questions that he asked. I'd like to know why you told me that we would hire her as a seasonal employee, and then in your email response back to Sarah at CDAM, you specifically told her that you thought that the board would have trouble or doubt they would support hiring someone on our own payroll.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Okay, so would you like to address those and tell me why?
Sure. Sure. When
before you go there, Mitch, I just have a question here, because I look at this as a similar issue to Eric leaving the zoning, and we left that vacated for a few weeks and had to scramble to get people to fill that. So in my mind, and this is one of the reasons I put the micromanagement policy on tonight's agenda, that we need to have a draft, because this is another issue of micromanagement in my mind. If Todd is the department head of that department and he found a way to replace somebody who's leaving early as cost neutral to the township and is going to be funded by the grant, why are we getting in the middle, other than for a process issue on how the check's going to come and how that's going to get distributed? I'm very concerned, because now we had it in place to basically walk in and cover this position today, but we can't, because I got 3 different stories from the township and they all come back to you, my friend. So yes, I'm ready to hear your explanation.
Sure. So yes, we did have an initial discussion about her and whether we could hire her as a seasonal. Now, when Ryan was hired through CDAM and us, there's a contract in place. And Ryan's leaving. There was talk about a replacement for him. So there was a thought of, well, CDAM's going to give us somebody to replace him.
But isn't that contract written as a fellow, not a certain individual?
It is. So a question is posed: when Ryan was hired, CDAM assumes things like work comp issues, unemployment issues, other things that the township would not. Right? Yes.
I totally agree with that, Mitch. So why wasn't that part of our discussion when you nominated or decided the process should be her being hired as seasonal?
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger issue is, well, if you had second thoughts about that, if that wasn't the right process and you wanted to call a timeout, I'm all about that. What you should have done is brought me into the conversation, and we all should have sat down and talked about it. But you didn't. You guys went behind my back, and that's unacceptable.
And when did I receive this notification of the current contract was going to be canceled and a new memo of understanding was going to be formulated?
I told you they were drafting it and we should see it any day.
Any day.
And again, if that's your reason, we can't start her on Monday because we don't have the documents in place.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. You call a timeout. We talk
Yeah.
about it. We delay
Okay.
starting.
All
it.
right.
That's
All right,
fine.
I'm gonna put a pause here. I'm sorry. I don't understand why we're having a conversation like this on a public meeting.
Yeah.
This should have had a discussion with all of you in the same room.
That's the whole point, Ann Richards, is we should have been talking about this and handling our business in private. And you went around me, or Mitch went around me instead. So that's why we're talking about it. I want the board to know.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Dickerson, you do not have the authority to hire anybody. You are a contracted employee unless you are going to pay them directly. That is what your contract indicates.
And this
And
contract with
point of order.
CDAM actually shows that we do have a person, and it does not specify that Ryan Mattis has to be that person. So with all due respect, he does have the authority to hire these people per the Oscoda Township Board, who voted on this and allowed it.
Well, again, I was given information, just like copies of the email that Mr. Dickerson is referring to. And I guess I read it a little bit different than that, Dave, so.
That's exactly how it went down being on the EIC meetings. I'm not sure if you have been privy to that or have been in listening to them, but this is exactly what went down on the EIC board. So
I can't attend every meeting because we already have several board members on there. And if too many of us Zoom in, it becomes a quorum. So I do not attend every one.
I understand that, ma'am. However, this is something that is under Mr. Dickerson in the EIC to do. This is something that the Oscoda Township Board has already approved. So this is a moot point in all honesty. It's been approved. We're trying to get a replacement and all of it's been approved. So please explain yourself and how this has not been approved and how this is being thrown back in our face.
Okay, well, Mr. Sutton, I believe, was asked to hire somebody as a seasonal employee. And they in the payroll office had some issue with that. So that's, I believe, how the questions went from there.
So going with that, Mr. Sutton decided to just go behind everybody's back and not include the people that were representing the township at that time, to bring in another fellow, not include Mr. Dickerson, and just talk to Sarah on her own, including Mitch as well. I'm glad that Sarah actually brought Todd into this because he would be out of the loop without all this. And this is his job. This is the whole reason he was hired. It's pretty pathetic, honestly.
Well, okay, that's your opinion, Dave. And as the EIC chair, again, it's the township that is employing this person, not the EIC. So.
Actually, the township paid the $6,000 in the past, and that's all that the township had to do, and that has been approved. The township is not paying a dime because the CDAM fellows are paying all of this. So
right, I understand that.
Okay, I'm glad you do.
And to
So,
that
in
point,
this
David,
case,
just
like
like
I-
say I had talked with Mr. Dickerson and my reach out was only to secure how payroll was going to be paid, because I can't pay anybody out of this office without something in a contract. So that's what started my reach out, was simply just looking for the documentation to back this up.
Yet the parties that needed to be included were not.
Right, the problem was we didn't have the contract yet, so I
The
was
problem
told she
is
was
you did not
starting
include Todd
Monday.
Dickerson.
Right, I had to reach out for contract details.
Without including Todd on this email that he was instrumental in getting a CDM fellow?
Right,
Gotcha. So you just leave out a township employee from something that is directly impacted to their job.
right. Whenever funds go through here, I have to reach out to who we're doing business with to secure that documentation, Dave.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's all it was, and I just wanted you guys to know, it wasn't to stir anything for Mr. Dickerson. It was simply to make
Why
sure
was
we
he not
had what we
included?
needed here.
Why was he not included, Josh?
As far as I knew, we did not have an agreement, so we were still waiting, but I was trying to facilitate what was going to be in there so we could see what we had to do to pay her to start today.
Okay, Josh, I got a question because I've got the email in front of me. So if you were just looking for the contract, why are you asking for clarification, Sarah, on how Ryan will be replaced? And would it be the same process as reviewing applications from you and choosing the best applicant? Or would his replacement be paid the same as Ryan? I'm kind of confused.
Because
From
until
my
that came
understanding,
out, I
both,
was under the
Josh,
assumption.
I have the floor. I have
Go
the
ahead.
floor. So Josh, the interviews had taken place and it ended up being a cost neutral. I understand the clerk and the supervisor and the treasurer wanting to know where the money's going to come from in the contract. I get that. But it seems to me as too many people circumvented Mr. Dickerson's contact that he owns, and it should be him, and he should be included in this process. And it was bypassed, and now it's all mucked up, and we don't know if we'll be able to get this person when we should need her, or him, or whoever the heck it is. So yes, I don't want a position left open for another 2 to 3 weeks when all we have to do is get together as a group and do something. But in this case, I'm told that our superintendent said we didn't need to get in front of the board to get this done, and he had the power to do this as long as it was cost neutral. So yes, I would like a resolution, and I would like it tonight or tomorrow. Let's talk about the resolution. What's it going to be?
I think actually that Mr. Friel should probably take a look at this and give us some direction. So.
Well, I doubt he's going to be able to do that tonight.
No, you know, again, Steve, I don't think that this is the way that we should have been handling this to begin with. So in a discussion in this forum. So with that being said, no, I don't think we're going to have a resolution tonight, with all due respect. I don't think there's, we will get it to Mr. Friel and get his thought process in the next day or so. Okay.
Could not under the contract for Todd, and I'm looking at number 10, it says that a consultant can hire regularly certified staff as subcontractors. And it's talking about the consultant, which would be him, would to make payment for all employee wages, payroll, benefit, injuries incurred by employees, and off township properties, workman compensation. Could not CDAM pay either him directly or through us to him for that purpose?
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
Most of us board members are sort of out of the loop on this entire discussion here. But I was part of the group that approved the contract with CDAM, where the township paid some $6,000 as a portion of the CDAM fellow's salary of I believe $53,000, so that CDAM was picking up the $47,000. I don't know how they contributed that, if that came to the township so that we could pay it, or if CDAM paid them directly. But all that aside, my understanding was that CDAM, and I believe Mr. Dickerson was the one that was able to put this all together for us in the beginning. He's the one that found CDAM and made this arrangement. And my understanding was that CDAM was going to follow through with the proposal to provide a fellow, possibly even two, for the duration of Mr. Mattis's tenure here. And so I guess I don't quite understand, are we still in an agreement with CDAM that they will provide a replacement for us? Or is that, I don't understand where a seasonal employee comes into play there. It seems to me it would be another CDAM fellow. I guess I'm missing something here.
Yeah, Bill, so if I can speak, what they are proposing, because they have the same situation in a community in St. John's, where the fellow is ejecting early. And so as an organization, they decided that what they could best do to help the communities is financially support them for the remainder of the contract. So for us, it's 16,600 and change is what the value of that role is for the next 4 months. What they would like to do is modify our agreement and say, we're gonna send 16,000 and change to the township, and you guys can then solve how you would like to, basically move forward with a candidate or a person. And so that's when I went to Mitch to say, hey, how should we do this? We have multiple options. We could hire a person as a 1099 person. We could hire this person through another third-party consulting firm, or we could hire them as, and again, as Mitch suggested, as a seasonal employee. So it's not that we don't have options, and CDAM is willing to support it, but that's the reason they are changing how they want to support it. For 4 months left in a contract, they don't want to go through the gyrations of hiring another person and they have one of their internal persons going on maternity leave. So again, for the benefit of their organization and the 2 communities in need, that's how they were proposing that we finish out this contract. So yes, it changed. They are directing the change or that narrative, not me.
Oh, okay. And I thank you, Todd, for that summary. I'm not trying, but we're getting close to the 9:30 mark, so we're going to have to extend. And it's obvious, I guess, to me that we cannot resolve or act on this evening. So I think it sounds to me that we need to have a sit-down meeting between the superintendent, the clerk, Mr. Dickerson, and Mr. Westerbarth as to who brought it to the table, I guess.
And the treasurer.
And the treasurer. Not sure why
I'm
that.
not sure why I would be in it, but
Okay. That's always a question.
okay.
So-
Well, I guess
and the
because if
treasurer
we
goes, right?
pay the, I guess if we
The
get the
attorney, yeah.
invoices, that kind of thing.
You've
Well,
got,
depending on
gotta
if we,
receive the money.
if we are paying.
I'll,
So,
if if you want me there, I'll be there.
Well, I would just like to say that, given Mr. Dickerson's explanation, it sounds a lot simpler than what has been discussed. If CDAM is willing to fulfill the remainder of the contract that we have with them to pay for finding another employee, I guess I don't really see where the problem is. And if we have somebody in mind, I guess that's, I guess I don't quite understand the problem here. If CDAM is willing to continue with the program that we contracted with them for, then I guess maybe I'm missing something.
Well, Bill, my issue isn't, do we have a solution? Yes. My issue is that the superintendent circumvented me in this process.
Yeah, I understand that, Todd. I understand that, and that is frustrating. But this whole CDAM fellow was something that you were able to provide for the township in the beginning, and because it was a program that was involving the state that we took part in, and as long as CDAM is willing to continue with that and make that payment for the person, I guess it doesn't sound like it's that difficult of a problem to resolve, but
sure doesn't seem to be.
Well,
No,
I concur. I concur with what you're saying there, Bill. And I just wanted to add that I think that it would be very helpful if CDAM had their agreement that they wanted to revise, if they had that language in writing, that the people could then understand what it is we're actually entertaining. I do want to say, unless we've got some very, very solid assurances from CDAM, which I would have to say would be a signed contract, that's the most solid you can get, that they're actually going to give us the money, that we can then proceed and know that it really truly will be a net zero activity, then we're good. But I think trying to get this person started to hire today is a little bit fast, considering we don't have a contract with CDAM that says that's what they're going to do. But I like where we're going, and I love what Todd has put together for us through CDAM. I think that what we've got here is great. I think we just need that contract, and we certainly need to come to an understanding as the executive board you know, the board members with the superintendent, I think they need to really sit and
Right.
talk that out.
Okay, it's now 9:30. I need a motion to extend.
I move that we extend tonight's board meeting for another 30 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Sutton to extend until 10 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, so we're gonna have that subgroup work together on that, Todd?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on then to workplace harassment. I believe that's you, Mr.
I'm asking the board's approval to have the township attorney initiate an investigation of workplace harassment within the township, which would include interviewing township employees.
In regard to what?
It's been reported to me that we have some possible harassment issues that involve the township administration and possibly some elected officials. So this is outside the scope of Mr. Mitch and the supervisor at this point in time. So looking for a third party to do an investigation. And my next agenda item has coincides with the micromanagement draft to present a micromanagement policy. So they're kind of tied together. So I'd like to make a motion to have the township attorney, with the board's approval, initiate investigation of workplace harassment within the township.
I'll second that.
Actually, should it be even a different attorney or the state police?
I can't see why it can't be our township attorney.
Would that be a conflict of interest for them because they're the township attorney?
Well, Mr. Friel is on the line, so why don't we ask him?
Okay.
Yeah, I am on the line. I'm having real problems with my monitor right now, and I can't, Jeremy. It's jumping all over the place. It's the interactive monitor. Anyway, this is, it was just kind of brought to my attention earlier today. I would like to preface that, no, it's not a conflict. No, I don't think there's any allegation of criminal wrongdoing so that the, MSP or any other law enforcement agency would have to be involved. But just so the board, we have not had yet our face-to-face meeting, which I think is an imperative here, between me as your brand spanking new attorney and you as, the client. But, I'll just let it be known right here. I will not engage, nor have I ever engaged in getting involved in spats between board members and, the politics of it all, except and only to the extent that it creates or presents legal issues, either to you as a board or the township as a whole, both of whom are my client. So the way I would approach something like this is if, there's a consensus of the board to do so, it's just simply, take the inquiry, go forward with it, and look at it from a completely factual predicate and basis, and apply what policies are in place. And then, what other state potential, legal statutory implications there might be. But Jamie, to answer your question, if I heard your voice right, because I can't see the damn screen. No, it's not a conflict that way, I don't think. And believe me, if I felt for a moment there were, I would be the first to say.
I appreciate that.
But
that's
how I'd approach it, though. I would approach it just simply as an inquiry, fact-based, and then give you, my client, the board, my assessment and recommendations. And it's more of an advisory / counsel type maneuver than it is anything avocative, if that makes sense.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Frill. So this is Tim and the other Tim. So the question I have for you is that, if you should, well, first of all, I think you know more about this than even some of the board members here. I think that because this report was made to Mr. Westerbarth, and not to everyone, we don't know many of the details other than what we're just learning here on this call now. The allegation is of course concerning, and therefore I would like to see us act on it. Absolutely, no question. But at the same time, we are talking about a serious allegation. So if you were to encounter something that did appear to be, well, I guess beyond the scope of merely an investigation, which might be too large of a word in this case. I think you're just trying to find out what happened, might be more of the colloquial way to put it. But if something were to go beyond that scope, I would like you to be able to exercise your judgment and bring in, a law enforcement party if that was required. But I don't know what this entails, so I kind of don't know what it is I'm agreeing to here. If I'm,
honestly,
there would be the problem.
Yeah,
I don't know either. I don't know either what this entails. And factually, I do not know the facts here. And it's just a general issue that was, has just been broached almost as recently as this meeting, but without a factual background. But see, this is where my role as counsel comes in. If I identify issues that seem to suggest that there's hypothetically, that there's criminality, well, then I have certain obligations just as a member of the bar. But ultimately, my obligations are to this client, and that's the Township of Oscoda and all of its inhabitants, and by and through you guys, the board. So, I guess it isn't, at the risk of sounding self-serving, it isn't a bad idea to dish this off to legal counsel to perform an inquiry, factual-based investigation. But if and as it comes to points that may suggest, criminal wrongdoing, and this is what I don't know. I mean, I literally don't know. Is this the superintendent? Because on a day-to-day basis, like with a city, in terms of my contact point, with a city, my contact point on a day-to-day basis is either the mayor or a manager. Townships, be they charter or general, it's the supervisor, often the clerk or the treasurer, depending on which office is that issue. But it isn't a bad idea to do an in-house internal type of thing, and I'm advising this in a general manner. It's just then it becomes incumbent on me, not you guys, me, to make a judgment call as to if there are problems. Okay, now with whom do I discuss this if it has to segue this direction, that direction, or whatever? And my initial contact would be the superintendent. That's the day-to-day person in charge of affairs who isn't, politician involved. But I don't know, and if it comes up where, oh my God, the whole problem is Mitch, then I get with Ann as a supervisor, as the legal representative of, per statute of the township. And then we advise and we take it from there. And I can advise any of you at the same time on the board as well, just to keep you in the loop. Open Meetings Act being the primary issue in that regard.
Well, then I would like to just share my opinion, given what you've just said, what little I know now, that maybe the contact is not just one, but maybe a couple. That if it would normally be the superintendent or Ann, the supervisor, that it would also include, I would have to suggest here, Mr. Westerbarth, because apparently this person was deemed neutral enough by the party that was complaining to feel that he was not directly involved. So that would be a kind of a tiebreaker there, if you will, right? So maybe it's not just one person, Mr. Friel. Maybe we could work out a couple or something. Just a suggestion.
You as a board can do whatever you want in terms of my contact. In fact, that's one of this developing hit list of issues that I'd love to sit down and go over with you. Well, we need to, between attorney and client. Unfortunately, COVID and Zoom is somewhat of a hampering factor, but you guys can appoint a committee, quote unquote, a sub-quorum committee to, I guess, be the contact, be the oversight of this inquiry, if you want. It's definitely shouldn't, nor does it have to be a standing committee, but you all could say, well, it's Mitch and Steve. That's the workplace harassment inquiry committee.
Okay.
It sounds corny, but you can literally do that, and it makes it way more efficient. And then that committee's obligation, obviously, is to report to the board, along with me.
I hasten to call it a committee because at this point, Josh's ears have got to be going a little bit. Every time we have a committee or a subcommittee, it has to meet with an agenda. There has to be a scheduled meetings. It's open.
No, it doesn't
sound like that's
no, it doesn't. That's it's the fact of a sub-quorum committee.
I see. Okay, fair enough.
No,
okay.
It's very mobile and it's very efficient to get things done. The ultimate decisions at the public body level have to be made by obviously the board, but all the committee makes no decisions. It just acts as kind of an advisory entity, and then that interacts with the board at the open public level. So no, it does not have to be agendas. It does not have to be notice meetings, nor should there be, and that's one of the purposes of doing it.
And that's a fair point. We just have shied away from the term committee, subcommittee, because it gives that other, I don't know, perspective, whether it's required or not. So fair enough. Yeah,
No,
I'm tracking with you. Fair enough. Thank you.
Committee should be employed.
Yes, committee for sure. I had a question. According to our employee handbook, when there's a harassment case, it's supposed to be submitted in writing, usually obviously to the superintendent because he's the personnel director. Has that been done?
I don't know if you're asking me again. My screen's all bad.
I guess you, Tim, or Steve Woosterworth.
Whatever
the implication involves a few elected officials and our current superintendent. No, it was not done.
So
that's why I'm bringing it to the board.
Okay, well then doesn't that person need to follow the handbook and submit in writing a harassment charge against whatever happened to whoever's going to be
They don't feel comfortable, Jamie. And this has been going on for a long time.
Let me jump in.
They're not comfortable.
Let me jump in without even knowing any of the facts or the players involved. Yeah, oftentimes, even if you have a policy on point, and man, we just went through this here in East Tawas with our housing commission. I'll leave it at that. But oftentimes the object of the gripe or the grievance is the top of the totem pole, and then unless your policy is perfect, it doesn't provide for that situation. And so you individual board members are the only, you are the voice of last resort. So either way, it shouldn't preclude if there are problems or concerns. And I'm talking now generically across the board, township wide. If there are problems that the individual employees have that are with their supervisors, let's just say, or the people that they're supposed to go to, and if your policy doesn't address that particular scenario, then they have no recourse but to go to you on the board. I wouldn't let procedure, overtake substance if that's what's going on. Again, I don't know the facts at all, but that shouldn't preclude an inquiry at all. But if there is a procedure in place and it does fit, then yeah, it should be followed. But let's all face it, that would be a procedural formality. But nonetheless, if nothing else, posterity and future precedent and all that, yeah, it should be followed if it can be. But if it can't be, well then, and I got a feeling from what Steve's saying, this segues into maybe the micromanagement issue too. Well, then that begs the question, and we got to dig into that. But again, I'm approaching this from a counseling, advising standpoint, not an advocate, you know, not a G-man type thing. I'm just trying to look at it from what I'm gathering right now as I listen.
Is there a budget limitation to this? I mean, what are we going to be spending here?
I think, oh my God, I mean, it should be incredibly, incredibly frugal. You know, one of the many issues on my tick list that I want to talk to you guys about is, like, for example, having me at every meeting for now 2 hours and 45 minutes. You know, is that necessary? No. You know, there's all sorts of ways that we can, you know, be, I think, more frugal, but I can't tell you right now. I don't even know the facts of what this is going to entail. I think it's more of a concept game for you guys as board members to get your minds around and say, yeah, is this a good concept or not? Let's authorize it. Then at that point, everything is within quote unquote reason. And then of course the rules of ethics that I have to abide by all the time with every client in terms of my discharge of duties to the client. But no, I can't tell you what this is going to entail. It's just you guys as a board need to decide whether or not you want this to happen.
Tim, do you
Mr.
have a
Frill?
copy of our handbook?
Is it online? I'm sorry.
Yes, it
wish I
is.
could just
It's
go
on
right
the
straight to the
website.
website right now.
Yes, Tim, it's on the website.
On the documents on demand site or on the website itself?
My mouse isn't
Well,
skipping over to
It's
my other
both. You
screen
get
right
it. You
now.
get to the documents through the website, but in this case, it is. From last I checked, it was on the homepage. Give me a moment.
Yeah, I think it is. And I just, unfortunately, I cannot move my mouse over to the other screen, to pull up that part.
That's fine.
But,
That's fine. So what would this committee be called? I guess is maybe the next
you
question.
can call it
Is
whatever you want. You could call it a, you know what? It might not be a bad idea from just these things that I'm gathering. It might not be a bad idea to form a policy committee, quote unquote.
We have a policy
We
committee.
have one.
All right. Who is that?
Myself, the clerk, and Mr. Palmer.
And myself, I'm going voice recognition here. That's
Sorry,
Jamie,
it's
right?
Jamie. Sorry about that.
All right, so there you go. There's a policy committee that's already in place. The other type of committee like that I've dealt with before with these types of things would be a wage and salary committee. You know, they deal with looking at wages, salaries, but they also look at workplace issues. Sometimes, you know, it's up to the municipality in question. But, you know, you can form a committee for any purpose. They just shouldn't be standing committees. They should be more or less ad hoc and as needed type things, and they go away as soon as the need goes away. But if you have a policy committee, it would seem that as a matter of concept, that might not be a bad idea committee-wise, concept-wise, to deal with this. Now it's a question, is the board, you know, consensus of the majority of a quorum, comfortable with who's on the policy committee being at least the initial contact with this on a committee basis?
I'm okay with it.
I'm all right with it. I think at least one person that works in the building should be involved.
I totally agree with that. Or I should say I completely don't disagree with that at all. There's no reason why I would say no, you know.
Okay, I think that could be later for discussion, but we have a motion and a second on the floor.
What was the motion?
I think it was to have me
Look into workplace harassment, I believe.
Yeah.
You know what, I actually don't have any. Do we have a motion? I mean, I have the motion and support written down for putting it on the agenda, but I guess I don't have anything for anything else.
I
Steve,
made the
apologize.
motion, and I believe Mr. Cummings seconded it.
Correct.
And then we had discussion. And then, and what was the motion? Wasn't it to have the attorney investigate?
Initiate an
Yes.
investigation of workplace harassment within the township.
Thank you.
So we've had discussion. And then now it's a question of, right, I mean, parliamentary procedures, is it going to be voted on just that, or is it going to be modified, or whatever? That's up to you
I
guys.
guess I'm
So-
calling the question to a vote.
Um,
So we're not forming a committee. I mean, we're not using the,
I
We're
would
not
like to
us-
put that in the motion. I'd like to see that in the motion and have Tim confer with.
I'm not willing to amend my motion, and I have called for question.
So procedurally, you have a motion, a second, you've had discussion, and the motion stands as is on its face, and then you should take a vote on that.
all right, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
I'm gonna vote no until we put in place the committee and how,
Comment.
yeah.
Just vote.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
No,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
No. Motion passed.
Okay, so I'm gonna write that down. That TRF, that's my initials, to proceed with investigation. Quote, unquote.
I'd like to make a motion that the policy committee is who our attorney will be working with to do the investigation.
Support.
it's not on the agenda.
It's part of the
We
same
already
topic.
closed it. We already closed
Part of the
discussion,
same
and it's not
topic.
on the agenda.
It's part of the same
like to-
topic, Steve.
It's part
I
of the
would like
same
a
topic.
pop-
It's part of the same topic.
Yeah,
We
I
are-
don't see anything wrong with it. Why is it wrong, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the
Oh,
same topic.
okay.
If I may make a suggestion here, the policy committee that Ms. McGuire was referring to was indeed herself, myself, but it was Mr. Nordine and Mr. Weed were on that committee. I would, if we are in fact going to put together a committee, I would like to withdraw myself from that and put Mr. Wusterbarth on that policy committee, along with whatever other board members the board sees fit.
And that would require board action. Each member would have to be voted in with a motion.
Yes, it would. I mean, going back to, let me address it again. This is more parliamentary procedure than it is legal. But Jamie's, anybody's okay to make a follow-up motion, in my opinion, on this issue. Steve's initial motion obviously passed. So now if somebody else wants to throw in a corollary motion about there being a committee, that's legit. But then the question becomes, if that seems to be the consensus, then who's on the committee? If that quote unquote policy committee entailed people who are no longer on there, nobody has been, like Aaron, and nobody has been put on there to replace, well, then that needs to be attended to as well. But procedurally, it's okay for you guys to do this. Just so you know, now handle it accordingly.
So can I make a motion to create an investigation committee in regards to harassment? And appoint myself, Steve Wusterbarth, and Josh Sutton, I guess, because we both work in the building.
Well, to keep it tidy, I mean, if you already had or have a policy committee, quote unquote, and then now it's just a question of, well, who comprises it? Why it sounds like instead of creating more policy or more committees, you guys are already fragmented enough, in my opinion. And so if there's already been a committee that could encompass this subject matter, let's keep it. So if it's done just a question of who comprises it, if the people who were last appointed no longer are part of the township government, then I would suggest, and it's just a template, that if you're going to make a motion, Jamie, that I work with the policy committee, and then that policy committee be comprised of whoever.
Okay.
Let's not form, if we can avoid it, let's not form new committees if we don't have to. But rather keep in place committees we've used before that would work well with the subject matter. And if we have absenteeism or vacancies, you know, put them
Right,
in.
in theory, then we would have to start a new committee, similar to the sidewalk committee. The sidewalk committee, all those board members are no longer board members. So we couldn't just, you know, so
Right.
in this one, you can't just say that it was formerly the supervisor and it was formerly the clerk. So it's going to be those people again. We would have to
You're right.
reinvent the committee.
That would go to the ethos of a standing committee. We don't want standing committees, and we, you know, these are committees. It's more of a concept driven thing. So the policy committee, you know, usually, you know, they're or whatever, any given committee is appointed, you know, by the board, you know, and so if you've had a policy committee before, let's just keep that name. It's more of a title than anything. We keep that name. If you had people on there before, it makes it easy. If any of them are no longer part of the township government, then replace them with somebody else who is. But you're right about like sidewalk committees, you know, so sometimes there's a need. So you have a sidewalk committee, and then for years, you know, they've done their job for years, everything goes well. And then all of a sudden you need one again. Oh, we're a sidewalk committee. And then this is who's going to be on it. You know, all in favor? Yay. Okay, done, carried. You know, well, it depends on, you guys are charter, cities are home rule, the mayor basically, and the, you know, but it's different with you guys. Either way, if that makes sense conceptually, what I'm suggesting is there be a committee. You've already had policy committee before. Keep I think the policy committee makes the most sense rather than creating some like investigation committee or whatever. We could say the workplace harassment committee if we wanted to, but no, let's not. Let's just keep it a committee that can be, you know, multifactual, multi-purposeful. In this instance, it makes sense to me, at least. Let's call it a policy committee, and if you don't feel comfortable with the former membership, then create new membership. But either way, I think going to what Jamie's saying, you know, if her motion is on top of Steve's that just passed, that then I work with a committee, fine. Give it a name and give it membership.
Thank you, Mr. Friel. Jamie, are you ready to make a motion?
No, so if somebody else would like to, that would be fine with me. And it's also coming up on 10 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
For Josh and Ann running this, there was a motion made, so there was no support, right?
Correct.
So that dies. Okay,
Yes.
so somebody else can make a motion.
No, I'm not.
All right, let me take a stab at it. So I move that we empower Mr. Friel to work with our existing policy committee to be newly comprised of, and at this point, let's see, it was going to be now Mr. Wisterbarth, the superintendent, and Jamie, I think was the way we had it.
Tim, is there going to be some type of a limitation of like give it a week
yes.
or 2 weeks? That would be great.
Well, I was thinking, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, let's say let's just say up to 10 hours. How about that with the ability we can extend it? I mean, you're saying that this requires some time. I hate to get into a chit chat with the motion, but 10 sound good?
Again, this sounds self-serving. I know you're in the process of making a motion and it sounds self-serving, but I don't. Just don't.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't get into dollars and hours. You guys ultimately are the arbiters of what's reasonable, and I, you know, and there's where the attorney-client trust thing comes in.
So I'll take the stand then. Thank you, Mr. Friel. And so with the attorney reporting his time and effort to the policy committee.
To the whole board, I have to do it to the whole board.
It'll start with them, right? They'll start with them.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
you're
make
reporting
it
to them on this.
like an immediate priority.
Fair enough, of course, with an immediate priority, if to the degree you can handle that, Mr. Friel. So, well,
Support.
I feel like the motion, what is it, a horse, a camel is a horse by committee, especially as a
Right.
motion. Okay, there we are.
So the
And-
policy committee is, you're making the recommendation to form it with Mr. Westerbarth, the superintendent and the treasurer, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Okay,
Can I make a comment on that?
yes.
The previous
Discussion
policy
time.
committee, the previous policy committee had 4 board members.
Yes, that's what makes it a quorum.
Yeah, right. We don't want that.
We can't
Well,
have
That's the
that.
problem. That's
So we
right.
probably should
That's why,
have
That's why
3
we
then.
did.
And I would be willing to stay on that committee as long as Mr. Westerbarth is also on that committee. That would give us
But
3
if-
board.
but if it has the quorum, this goes right back to the original comment, which is now it's no longer just a,
But it's
Right.
not
a
with
group of
3.
people getting together. It's now going to have to be treated like an actual board meeting.
Yeah.
That would
No,
be
It
with
needs to be
4.
posted meetings and all of that. It's public.
No.
That
3
would be
board
with 4.
members with quorum.
Yeah, that's only 3 board members,
4.
because you said the
No, I said-
superintendent.
He's, no, I heard him say 4, right? What do we have here?
No, we
You
had
want
Mr.
3?
Westerbarth, Jamie and Mr. Palmer and the superintendent, who is not. an
Oh,
elected
I
official.
understand your point now. So thank
Yeah.
you very much. Correct. Of
So
course,
it's
yes.
3 board members. Okay, all right, so that's
Okay,
the
so
policy
then-
committee. Okay,
Correct, it is.
all right, and
And
that,
so it was.
mm.
But my motion did not include Mr. Palmer. So but the committee is currently only 2 board members and the superintendent. So I'd like to amend my motion to include Mr. Palmer as well.
Okay, and
Now we have
Jamie, do
4
you still
members.
support that?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we
And
have a
we might-
motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. McGuire to form a policy committee with board members Westerbarth, McGuire, and Palmer, along with the superintendent.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. We now need another motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock if you so choose.
I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to finish our business.
I'll second.
The motion by
so-
Mr. Palmer,
Real
support.
real quick. So there's been a second. So I hate to make this even longer, but so we can have a discussion. Why are we talking about 9:30, 2.5 hours and all this stuff? I may have missed it from the last meeting, but why do you guys think that you need to deal with even though I think that your meeting should be way shorter than they are, but why are you guys worried about this?
I was under the impression that it was state law that meetings can only go 2.5 hours without a vote to extend.
No,
Yeah, I
just
don't-
9:30 PM, not 2.5 hours.
Oh, past 9:30 PM.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay, Tim, I don't know about that, that law.
Yep, I
Yeah.
understand.
We
I
have
think it
meetings
comes up.
all over the state that go for hours, they go past midnight.
Yes, understood.
We have
Understood.
a motion.
Right, so we can get
That's
back,
a
I guess, Mr. Frill, you could look into that.
I
Right now,
tried to today, actually.
Yeah, we'll look into we have a motion to extend by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Westerbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. We do
Has to
not
be
have full support.
unanimous.
It's not
Needs to be
unanimous.
So,
It kind of goes to my question. What law are you thinking of?
Okay, fair enough. We'll deal with that afterward.
a little bit later, I guess.
So now we need to
Okay.
get to public comment and
Okay,
off.
so with that, we will go to public comment. Right, so the public, great, so now we're to the final public comment section. You have up to 4 minutes. I am going to just, if you have a computer and want to do the raise hand feature, please do that. I'll do those first. And then if we don't have any there, then I will just unmute all and go from there. Okay, so if there's anybody on the computer that would like to make a public comment now, please feel free to do so. I do not see any raised hand features. That being said, I am now allowing people to unmute themselves. Okay. So you should be able to unmute yourself. Obviously, we don't want to have people talking over people, so I might have to stop people depending on how it comes up. But if you have a public comment, please state your name and your residence. And again, this public comment, you have up to 4 minutes, and it does not have to be on something on the agenda this evening, unlike the first one. Okay, does anybody have a public comment?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian Haley again. Yeah, quite a meeting. Oh boy. So here we go again. I'm not going to rehash everything. I guess the only thing I can say is the town's going to go on offense now. So you guys wanted it. 4 members anyway, concerning Fertile. All right. So we're talking recall. So who did, can't remember who made the motion to do it, who seconded the motion on Fertile. So that'll be in November. So that'll happen. You might want to budget for election whenever that'll take place. So that's the way this will go. So that's quite obvious. It's unfortunate, but it's probably overdue. So we're going to change the board, obviously. I don't speak for the town, but hey, I know this town and I know how they're feeling about things. So, and obviously 4 members don't. So we'll approach it from that way, go on offense at all levels then, and stick to the board's commitment when any LOIs come forward for Fertile especially, or the beach proper, not up on the hill. Maybe we should start calling it up on the hill down there between Lake and Michigan and River. But so that's the way it'll go. We're not going to get all too ugly about it, but man, oh man, you guys, you're heading into some ugly waters here. And so this is round 2 or round 3, whatever it'll be. So that's the way it'll go. Good luck with it all. It's not going to work out well. It really isn't. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's Bob Taser has his hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself, Bob.
Yeah, I just want to respond a little bit to Mr. Haley that under state law, under the first year of any after an election, you cannot recall. So that's something you may want to look into. And
I already stated it.
Oh, whoa, Brian, you cannot.
It was in
comment.
November.
Brian.
I stated it, Taser.
Okay, I'm gonna mute. I gotta find you to mute you, but
No
you cannot
problem.
comment
But
during
that's,
somebody
hey,
else's time.
listen up, Taser.
Hey,
listen.
stop, Brian, stop.
Hey, we're going to be more direct as we move.
I'm sorry, but I really took that as a threat, and I'm very concerned about that what just happened.
Okay.
As a concerned citizen here in this township, I think I also have things that I would like to say. I didn't like the way things were going down either, and this talk about recall and all that kind of thing. I think is more appropriate right now is that unless we get our affairs in order, I think the state may get involved. Why in the world can we not start heading back down the road of progress of where we were at under RRC?
Oh.
Under the RRC certification process, we were finally making moves. Town halls, summits, community participation, all of those things that have been lacking for a long time were coming to fruition. My whole point here is, in order for us to move forward as a community, I think our boards need to be educated. I think that process has stopped. I think we need to get back online. COVID hit us hard. I get that. But now is the time that we need to get back involved and get our processes in order and start moving our community forward again. We're hitting on major topics. I get Fertile is a hot topic, but it's not the only topic. Housing crisis, our employees, stakeholders are begging us to help them out so they can bring jobs here. There's going to be a spaceport coming in here that's going to bring more. We need housing. Our zoning needs to be revamped. Our 165 ordinance hasn't been updated in 20 years. These are issues that need addressing, and all we seem to fight about is property dispositions and things of that nature, when we've got a whole line of things that need to be fixed in our community, and we have the means of doing that, but we're being stalled. And I don't like it. People talked about vacant buildings. We have a process to help fix that. Walkable downtown. All these are good and great things. But again, we're too busy talking about all of these, in my mind, secondary options here. The master plan spells it out. We just approved the goals and objectives of that master plan. Why aren't we talking about implementation of those goals and objectives? These are issues that need to be addressed and can fix the problems that we're fighting over. We're simply at a roadblock here in our community, and we need to get over that roadblock. And we got to get over a lot of people's attitudes. We got to get over a lot of people's self-pride. I don't know what it is, but that has to stop. And we have to come together and get these solutions, which we already have a path of progress here already laid down. It needs to happen. Let's knock it off. Let's get busy, get down to work, and fix these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think I, had to shut off everybody on that last one, Brian, because you were interrupting. We cannot have that during public comment. So when one person is speaking, they cannot interrupt somebody else. So that being said, I believe that you can unmute yourself if you have another public comment. I guess if a board member could maybe check to see. Or Larry Holland, you're on. Can you unmute yourself? Huh?
Hello?
Hi. Oh, there we go.
This is Justin Griffith.
Oh, hey, Justin, how are you? Go ahead. You have a public comment, Justin? Justin, are you there? Sorry, I might have just did something to cut you off.
Yeah, you did, but I think I'm back.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't have that you could. Okay, go ahead with your public comment.
Gotcha. So this is Justin Griffith, Weir Street, Oscoda. I think that, Fertile Field is valued by a lot of our town, and whatever happens to it, I think that there should be a lot of transparency and communication, and I think it could have been left out of the request for possible sale or whatever happened. I thought it was going to be a discussion, and it ended up being a vote, and a lot of the community doesn't understand policy or what's happening, and a lot of us just spaz out over it, and I think it could have just been better off left alone for a while. We could have worked on the properties that everyone is, as a community, in agreement to dispose of, and that's about all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, I did correct that. I'm sorry, I actually did not switch it. So you can unmute yourself now if you have a question or a comment. But I mean, again, it's about, yep, who's this? Hello? Anybody? I'm going to do a last call here because it's almost 10:15 at night. So last call for public comment. Okay, Dave Eiler. You should be able to unmute.
You hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. So when it comes down to the property disposition, it was requested of,
Oh, sorry, wrong button. Sorry about that. I meant to hit the lower hand. Sorry, Dave, go.
oh, I see how it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, there's a lower hand button. That's what I meant to hit. I apologize.
So when it comes to property disposition, I understand that other people have repeatedly asked for a list that of properties that actually was provided years ago by Real Estate One. Those people have been on this board for a number of years and should be able to pass this on to their fellow board members. So I don't understand why they would solicit other people of the community on Facebook to ask for that information. It's just quite interesting because the township property hasn't really changed very much in several years. I have a lot of other things to look at, but you know what? I'm good. I just wanted to bring that one thing up. Thank you. I hope everybody has a great night.
All right. Does anybody else have anything? All right, with that, I think we need a motion to adjourn. Or we
Yes,
already
we have
did
board
that when we didn't
comments.
extend.
No board comments this evening?
I didn't think that we did those under when we couldn't carry on the meeting, but
Well, they were in the minutes of the last meeting
okay,
that
well then
wasn't
maybe.
attended.
I'm sorry, Steve, I apologize. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm tired.
No,
So,
either am I.
if they're on there, then go for it. If anybody has a public comment, or I mean, board comment, go for it. You should be able to unmute yourself. And again, this is board comment. These will be board members, not public.
I attended the Cedar Lake Improvement Board meeting this week. They meet 3 times a year. 3 items. They're discussing the weed management plan for this year, which will be about $30,000 anticipated less than what was spent last year. Secondly, there's a lot of comments from some public around the lake, both in Oscoda Township and down Alcona County, primarily Greenbush, as to the new lake control device that was finished last year. I sent some communications to Mitch asking for clarification from the county commissioners in Iosco County and also the drain commissioner. There seems to be implications that the structure is leaking, and we'd like to get those answered correctly for the public. Secondly, I was made aware that the assessment for that same lake control structure, as it involves 2 counties, Alcona County booked it correctly, but the residents in Oscoda Township that are paying for the assessment, which are the waterfront owners, are being charged approximately $10 per year more than Alcona County over the 10-year period. I'm told that the county is aware of the issue. I'm just bringing it up because I'm not sure if our treasurer is aware from the county that they're supposed to be working on an adjustment one time to bring that back in line to where it should be. I don't know the details of why it got booked for a higher amount down here, but the Lake Control Committee or the Cedar Lake Improvement Board said that the county is aware of that. And secondly,
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Jamie, if you could comment on that, appreciate it.
I'd love to. The Iosco County Drain Commissioner's Office, they instituted a higher rate because they were using an interest rate also, but I haven't been able to get a definite answer out of them of what it was supposed to be. And unfortunately, they're unable to give me amounts so that I can give people that want to pay theirs off too. So it's been very frustrating trying to get an answer out of them. So I believe, like you said, an adjustment's going to be coming.
Yeah, and it's within the county. I just wanted to see if you were aware of it because it does affect, property sales and things like that.
I actually was the one that brought it to their attention.
Great.
Yep.
And then secondly, we did vote on some controversial issues today, and all I think we're trying to do is there's not a decision to sell. There's a decision to look at proposals and let the entire community discuss any proposals that may come for Fertile Field in an open and public meeting that I'm sure will involve many town halls as this process moves forward. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. Any other board members have board comment?
I do. I would like to address Dave Eiler's comment because it was directed to me. Dave, the reason why I was happy to wait to see about different properties. There's a few that I don't know where they're at, but we have a lot of new administrative staff, a lot of new board members that don't know where those properties are. In our discussions, they all said that. So that's why we were kind of hoping to get a map. And I asked you what the update was because I asked you for the where I could find the link because I wasn't able to get that link. And you referred me to the minutes, and the minutes are only on the internet. I sent that to you this morning, but you didn't respond to me. The minutes only go to November 20th, so I couldn't look at the minutes either unless they're posted somewhere else that I'm not aware of. I'd also like to address, I posted something on Facebook last week after our work session, and I also posted this information on Prosper Oscoda's website. My post was only in regards to completely to transparency. Our board protocol under 8.11, the development of the agenda explicitly states that each memorandum must include supporting documentation, including any information requested by the board at the previous board meeting. And it also says each item on the agenda shall have sufficient explanation to indicate its intent. That was my only thing, is to transparency, transparency. Like I said, and like everybody said, Fertile's been a hot topic. I just wanted to make sure that the public knew it was going to be on the agenda. That was it. And as far as calling Todd the EIC guy, I'm sorry, that was not meant to be disrespectful, anything like that. Actually, I think Todd is an upbeat, kind of bubbly guy. So that's where it came from. So my apologies, Todd, if you took it the wrong way.
Okay, any other board members?
Yeah, this is Bill Palmer, if I could make just a quick comment. And two items. I've recently been in discussions with Congressman Kildee's office, trying to put some pressure on the Air Force to get them to pay for the use of the storm sewer system for the Mission Street plant. Not been having much success in that area. And I recently did a telephone interview with Garrett Ellison from MLive. He's putting together a piece for publication in the newspapers regarding Wordsmith and the township and some of the costs that are hitting our township that the Air Force is not giving to us, which they should be. The other comment I would like to make is that I did make the motion to put Fertile Field on the list of properties, mainly because there are a lot of possibilities of what could happen to that field. And I don't think it's fair to the residents of the township to deprive them of the opportunity to know what possibilities those are. And so by not putting it on that list, we would never know if, let's say, for instance, Great Wolf Lodge wanted to come in here and put a Great Wolf Lodge facility. Anybody doesn't know what that is, there's one in Traverse City. They're a hotel chain that specialize in gigantic water parks in their hotels. They have a number of them around the country, and people actually go to those as vacation destinations year round. And so that would be in the wintertime because they are completely indoors. So I think it's important that we reach out and see what's available, what the interests are, and what could possibly happen to Fertile Field. Without putting it up on the list of available properties, we would never know what those possibilities are. I Personally, I know we still need to help our fire department out. They need new facilities. I like the idea of we talked about before of developing that fertile field with a new community center involved. So there's a lot of possibilities, and I think by adding this to the list, maybe we'll find some big surprises for the community that might come out of that. Just because a proposal is made doesn't mean we have to accept it. There was a proposal before that never even got an opportunity to come to this board. This board never was able to see that proposal until it was withdrawn by the developers. And to me, that's a huge shame for this township not to be even allowed to see what a proposal would be. So that's the reason I'm encouraged to and made that motion to put it on that list, and look forward to seeing what can develop. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anything from, I think, Tim, Jeremy, Josh?
I'd like to echo Mr. Palmer's comments that, we'd like to see what's available out there. And, one of the things that I hear regularly is, well, I've been around here forever. Well, I don't care if your family originated here as an amoeba in Van Etten Creek, copyright Marvin Clark. The fact of the matter is that we all live here. We're all citizens, and we all want, and there's quite a few of us out there that would like to see what options we have for fertile field. We're not making decisions today. We're not going to make decisions without the public being involved, but we need to start moving. This town has sat here the same way since I was a child. The downtown hasn't changed a little bit, not even a little bit. And the only thing that I remember changing is that they took down the baseball fields on Furton. Now it's just a grass field. We need to look at options, and we're going to. So not saying that we're going to move on any of them, but we will see them, and so will the public.
Thank you, Jeremy. Did you have anything, Josh or Tim? Tim or nope, I might have muted you, sorry. I just asked you to unmute, Josh. Tim, are you there still? Okay, you don't have, all right, Tim, I don't know if I did something. Where's Tim at? Is Tim still on the meeting? I don't see him, I guess. I think he might have bailed.
I don't see him either.
Yeah, all right. I guess I just have one comment. Huh?
No, he's on, he's muted.
Oh. Where?
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
Try hitting your space bar, Tim. It might temporarily unmute you.
I might have just. Now try again. Sorry. Are you there? I don't know where he went. He was just there. He left. Somebody said, I don't know.
Looks like connection issues.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess just my comment in regard to fertile field and the disposition of properties. The board, whether or not we had 17 lists before, whether they were done by Real Estate One, or actually I think myself and Nancy Schweikert did the last one the township had, because I recognized my handwriting on the map. We, as a board, asked the EIC to develop a map that correlated with the properties. We then were going to take those and go over each of them. That being said, there's a lot of talk on the chat tonight in regard to this, and lots of it on Facebook. That was the task. The EIC accepted it, and they completed a component of that by giving us the LOI criteria. So my thought is that we were gonna take that list of properties and we were going to sit down and kind of go over each one of them. And when I say go over each one of them, I've got mixed feelings on the beach park that we just voted, or not, oh God, I gotta stop calling it the beach park. The property at, you know, at Michigan and stuff. I mean, I don't know, do we need a few feet to keep, to use for development for the beach? I don't know. I would have liked the opportunity to talk about these a little bit more in a work session atmosphere about each one of these properties. That's why I don't like to be rushed into stuff. And I go back to the fact that we have an agenda. We have a deadline of when things are supposed to be on the agenda in regard to transparency and so on and so forth. And I think we need to stick to that. So that being said, moving forward, we have a deadline of Thursday, I believe at noon, to get things on the agenda, to have them on the packet. If we do not have backup information on Friday when we are going over it, we will not be discussing it. That is our protocol, and that is what we need to be doing. So I don't know how we can make informed decisions or the public can know what we're talking about if we don't adhere to our own policy, but that's my thoughts. So I apologize that we are now 10:30 at night. I'm sure everybody's tired and wants to go to bed, and see ya.
I guess I move to adjourn.
Okay.